So what we'll do is I'm going to let you go ahead and share your screen, and then I'll show you where this is, and I'm going to teach you which steps to do as you work on your mapping.
Okay, let me, oops.
That's all right. It looks. Just give it a second or two, or whatever we've been doing to let your screen. There we go. Now I got it.
Still doing something.
It went black again here mostly, but not total.
Yeah.
So that's green background you've got there with the swimmer and the flippers. Is that you?
Yeah.
Oh, how neat.
No, not me. And no.
Oh, no, I thought that might be you. I didn't know if you were a diver or what.
No.
Okay.
Okay, let me zoom over on that side.
Yeah.
Uh,
And my daughter is a diver. Mostly because her husband and his family are big time divers. They go on these vacations all the time, big combined extended family vacations, and they'll go to places, down to the Caribbean or some kind of a dive site, maybe a deep lake or something with significance. So she didn't want to be left out having to sit at home making sandwiches.
I can understand. Should I create a file? Well, let me show you this first. Chuck Sager sent me two.
Okay.
He's my surveyor friend in Berkeley County that needs 2-foot contours to satisfy the county. And he sent me two projects that he needs. He sent me the floodplain tool. So it has the somewhere it has the, yeah, okay, here it has the Latin long.
Yep. Okay.
And there are two of them. So should I start a Carlson file and call it Sager?
Sure.
Or do you have a different workflow example in mind?
No, I mean, what I was going to step you through is some of the things that, like if you've already got something there where you've got a map started, so that you know right exactly where to go.
Well, let me think about that for a minute.
Right. But I can show you what to do with the Sager too. It doesn't matter.
Okay, well, here's one that I haven't really started a plat yet. I've just started the field work.
Yep.
I don't know what's going on here.
There we go.
So, yeah, I haven't done anything on the plat yet. I
Yeah,
haven't even brought the drawing into it.
sure, no problem. Just go over to your model space though, and I'll show you what we can bring into it. Now,
Okay.
let me I'll go ahead just in case we'll need it. I'll do the remote control request, but I'm going to let you do most of the driving here. So the very first thing when working with Carlson is in Carlson GIS is that you of course have to be in the GIS module. So when you switch to that,
We go to settings to do that.
yeah, the settings in the Carlson menus or the toolbar I see you have out, it's you see the bottom toolbar leftmost on the bottom row at the top, across the top up. Yeah, you see the left. Yeah. So that's survey, and then it goes civil, then hydro, and then GIS.
Okay, so I just click on that.
Yep. And to click back to survey, you would of course just click on the other one. Yeah, like that.
Okay.
So now, once you're in here, to be able to use some of these tools, some of them you can go ahead and do without doing this, but you want to go to the GIS data menu. You've essentially got 3 menus in this module. There's the data, there's some tools, and then there's some images. But the first thing that you want to do when you're starting to use this data is you have to go to this GIS settings and you have to declare a database file, or what's called a GIS file, and then a database file. And it really doesn't matter what it is, but it has to have a container to put this stuff in. So go ahead and choose that. And I tend to leave mine sort of specific in case, like if I'm working with contours, I'll make one that I'll set aside for contours. If I'm working with images or parcels, I might change these files around. You don't even have to, because what it will do is it sort of builds itself by reading this data you feed into it. So,
Okay.
you know, sort of keep your eye on that. And I want to sort of stress this issue because these assignments, these file assignments will stay in place even if you close this file and you quit out of the software and load it back up later. Those come back in
Okay.
with those. So anyway, so at this point you got two files you have to set. The upper one, it says GIS features, and those are the things that Carlson is going to be working with. And then you have a GIS data format. So this was the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around when I was first learning this stuff, is because in, you know, like in an Esri software package or any other kind of thing that works with a GIS feature set and a database, it's one file. You're telling it the file to use. But what Carlson does when it opens up that outside data, it puts it over into its own definitions file, which is what the GIS is. And all that file does is hold definitions, but it then stores the data into this second file that you've got of those four different formats, the part that's on the bottom. So don't worry about remembering any of that, other than you've got two files to set here. So let's choose the first select button. And we're going to go to the new tab. And you might as well just, you know, keep this in the file in the same location your drawing is in. That's fine. You can just give it a name, you know, wherever you are. So yeah. So just give it a name. And I would just call this, you know, WVGIS contour or something like that. It doesn't have to be the same name as the, as anything. It can be whatever you want to call it, but yeah, that's fine. Okay.
And
So,
open.
yep. So now all you've done there is declared the file. Now we also have to set this second file, and and you see there's four different ways of declaring that. And you've got a Carlson database type, you've got a map object data, but we don't have any map objects in here. Then you've got two from Esri, you've got the MSC data, and you've got a file geodatabase. Now that file geodatabase is the modern or newer version of what used to be a SHEPP file that they would work with. And that's okay. You can store them in these types of files if you want, but you don't have any made yet. And I think if you choose that, it's only going to look for existing files. So since we don't have any, it's going to work the most foolproof if we stick with the far left choice there, the database choice, and that's just Carlson type format. Now you'll even have some things of that choice in the next screen. You're going to have to select from that as well. So go ahead and hit select. And now of those database types, you've got a Carlson type, you've got a SQLite or a SQLite, they call that, which is a Microsoft base that is essentially the outgrowth of the Access database file. And then you've got an ODBC, which is an open desktop. No, I'm sorry, an open database connection. That's what this stands for. And that means, you know, if you're connected to some big corporate database and you'd have to put in your, your username and password, you can see that's grayed out down below. So in other words, we don't have any of that stuff. We don't need to get involved with it. So we're going to keep it as a Carlson database. And now you need to hit the select button one more time to define or to declare that database file. And again, we're going to go to the new tab instead of existing tab. And this is going to be a file once we're done. And go ahead and call it, you can call it anything you want, my GIS data or whatever. We're just, whatever. You could be the same name as the other file too, if you'd like, just for consistency. All right. And so,
open.
yeah, go ahead and hit open. And now we've established those. Go ahead and say, okay. And then, okay.
By the way, before I forget it, I don't think I've set my drawing scale on this yet.
Okay, yeah, and that's fine.
I didn't do that. Okay, I did do it.
All right. So
Okay.
now, yeah, and that doesn't have to be set beforehand or anything like that. So, so now what you've done is essentially given it some container names for when it starts to bring this data in and out that Carlson is going to be using without having to, risk overwriting any of the original source type of information that we bring in. So we've got this set up, and that's going to be something that's going to be really easy to let slip from your awareness.
Should I put this on its own layer? I mean, I shouldn't be using this layer. This is a.
Yeah, I would choose one, but we've got, when this particular data comes in, it's going to come in with its own layer, and you're going to see how you control that. So
Okay.
that's always a good practice for doing anything, even if you're just deciding to start to draw stream center lines. But go ahead, and for now though, don't just leave it where it is now, and I'll show you what it does. Or you can switch to a different layer.
Let me put it on boundary.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So now, when so we're going to bring some things in, and right now the data that you moved over, the bulk of that data are these 2-foot contours from these two counties. And let's go next to the GIS data menu, and we'll talk very, very briefly. Just go ahead and click that once and leave that down. The upper part, that's where we've defined our settings. And if we were really going to use Carlson as a GIS system, there's where you can define the GIS features, and you got the data editor and all that kind of stuff. But you're probably only going to use that very first one where we set the settings, the one that's 4 down, this is GIS inspector, so you can verify things. And then the one where it says label GIS data, that's basically the only things that you would use out of that upper block. These other ones, the next section for these links managers is again more to use Carlson as a GIS system, which is not really our goal here, and all that stuff is sort of self-managing anyway. But we will, and then there's a point GIS editor, and that's using Carlson points. If you are using those that CRDB data format, and it holds GIS attributes in the points. Again, not really what we're doing here, so we wouldn't worry about it. But the next block is where we're going to use a lot of these tools. And there are 3, those very first 3, there's a WFS server, which stands for Web Features Service. And then there's the Esri ArcGIS services, and those are basically worldwide and available to anybody. And then there are what's called REST services, REST, and I'm not sure what that stands for, but the WVGIS system, the entire clearinghouse, is a series of those REST servers. But then we're going to look at the next one where we import the GIS data. And if you pull that hover over that one, yeah, and you see the different type you've got. You can import that SQLite, the ODBC, but we're going to be focused on the third one, importing an Esri shapefile. And again, even though that's an old format, it's so well done and used a lot that Carlson has that part right. The Esri geodatabase is really the newer format and should be what we should be using. And it works sometimes. And I've been working with tech support in Carlson to try to see what's going on with this. And while Carlson can open up those geodatabases, and that was my original plan, was those contours that we downloaded from WVGIS. The first time I got started with, they were single geodatabases, like for the entire county. So when I go to bring that in, it would try to read the data, and then it would just give up and say abandon import. When I parsed it down to much smaller files and still kept them in the geodatabase format, it would read it, bring it in, tell you, hey, I've got this stuff with these particular assignments, like what layer to go on, what the elevation is for these, and all that kind of stuff. And you basically tell it, okay, when I bring this in, I want to assign the elevation based on this. I want to put it on these layers based on that. And it would let you choose it, but then it would just ignore it and bring it in on whatever it's called. And there's another one that's going on with that as well. So right now, at least for the immediate foreseeable future, shape files are going to be what we're going to use mostly. Okay. And those others, excuse me, are just some other specialized formats. ServCE and TDS, those are data collector files, as if you had gone out and collected GIS data on your points, and they'll bring those things into this particular into your particular environment. And then that's essentially all we're going to do from that menu. And then there's the other menu next to it up there at the top called GIS tools. And again, that's more for manipulating some things that you're not really going to do much about with this, unless you were you basically using your Carlson system as a poor man's GIS, as a substitute GIS. And it works with some polygons, which essentially are closed polylines in CAD speak. And it can do some things like read the layers they're on and create the data and all that stuff. Again, not what we're after. And then the next and final menu is the images. Now that's where we before been able to place a Google Earth image, which is not terribly accurate, but it goes out to Google Earth and grabs stuff. And so that sort of helps you see, where you are in the world. But it also works with these other really highly accurate images that you can download from places when you have a world file that goes along with them, that tells it how to do the transformation. So that's essentially what we would be off of this menu is that kind of stuff, the world file and the Google Earth image. You can also do, there's a drape image on surface. So if you have built a triangulation surface, it will take that image and drape the image as a texture onto the triangles of that surface. So you could spin this thing up in 3D and see that image draped on it. It's kind of cool. There's not a whole lot of really useful measurement that you can do for there, but it does help the visualization. So again, not much on this menu, but you got a lot of tools there. All right, so let's get started back on the other. We have set up our two files. And the very next thing to do is you've sort of zoomed around your area. I would zoom out a little bit further, like in there, that's fine. Just to sort of give us an overview of what we're looking for. Now let's go to the GIS data menu. And remember the biggest one that we've done after we've set our settings is we're going to go down to that import GIS data. It's one of the pull rights down at the bottom, down toward the bottom, right there. And we're going to import an Esri shape file. Okay. In fact, you can do more than one at a time. But the first one that we're going to do, whenever you're starting this process, go ahead and choose select file, and we're going to point it to that location that you put these files in.
Uh-oh.
Did you, wait a minute, no, you should be, you're probably okay. You probably did not open, or did I even put the zip files? Maybe I didn't put the zip files.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did, and I think I opened them.
Okay. All right, so we need to find out where they wound up going.
Okay, let me close this for a
Yeah,
second.
cancel that, and then
And let me get it, let me cancel
Go
this,
ahead.
and cancel that.
Yep.
Let me go out of here for a second. Go out of here for a second, and then go to here. And go to here.
Okay, so I see that's a zip. That's a zip file. You have to open that zip file. You have to expand it. Now, see, but see, you're all up there at the, see at the top of the screen where it says extract. Yeah,
Yeah.
choose that. Go ahead. I guess, well, it's okay now. Yeah, I'm sorry. See on the far right of the ribbon where it says extract all.
On the far right.
Go, yeah, drop down one row onto the ribbon. Now the far,
Oh.
yeah, right there. There you go. Now you want to put this in a destination folder, and right now it's going to create a folder under WVGIS data called Jefferson Berkeley GIS data. Go ahead and say extract. And so what that's going to do is to uncompress that zip file.
Yeah, I should have had this already done. Sorry about that.
Well, no, that's all right. It won't take long. Once it's done, however, Mike, when you go back to your computer, I would recommend getting rid of the original zip file that you downloaded, just because, you know, it's large, takes up some room. It won't be terrible, but you know, I'm basically a conservative at heart, and it's hard for me to watch people waste resources. So. Back to eating my potato chip breakfast. No, I hate that we have a Sam's Club membership. Are you still with me? Okay, go ahead.
And hit share screen. Share screen. You see it?
Yep, I'll go ahead and do the remote control request. Like I said, you're gonna do most of the driving here.
Okay, now where do I find and delete that zip file?
Just go back to the file explorer.
Where I was?
Uh-huh.
West Virginia GIS data?
Yep. And now once you're in that folder, you should see See the one that has the zipper on the icon?
Yeah,
That's the zip. And see, it's 1.8 gigabytes. So I would just select that and hit delete. Because you see the folder above it with the same name.
yeah,
That's what happened when you hit extract all. It created that folder and all the data in it.
okay.
Okay, so that's going to be fine. We're going to leave that as it is.
So go back to
Yep,
Carlson.
yep, that's fine.
Okay, then I go back to GIS data,
Yeah, let's see, one. Yeah, go ahead.
import GIS data, import
As reshape file.
shape file,
Mhm.
select
Select
file.
file, and you're going to go to that location.
Open this.
Yep. Now you're going to see and we're going to go to Jefferson, and you're going to see a tremendous number of, yeah, so the contour shape files, that's fine.
Open it.
Yep. So now you're going to see all of those. If you scroll all the way down there, you'll see that those are every one of those little individual tiles that are going to correspond with, if you just go all the way to the bottom, just drag that thing on the right or use the wheel all the way down. You want the Jefferson tile index. That's our first step. Okay. I mean,
Open.
assuming this file you're showing me is in Jefferson and not Berkeley, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So choose open. So, and there you see there's all those other files that are in the current folder. We're going to be using those here in a minute, but we're bringing in the Jefferson tile index. So we'll say open. And now we have two choices when we import this. We can bring in the geometry with the GIS data, or we could do the geometry only, which won't do us a whole lot of good. It just brings in line work and dumps it wherever we say, but so we want to bring it in with the data. So we're going to choose that. And if you go back one or click on the other one for just a moment for geometry only, even if we do choose that, you see there's a checkbox to the right of it, because that's what we do in Carlson more than anything else, is bringing in contour data. So
Right.
there's a checkbox that says elevate the contours. And if you do, it lets you choose which particular field in that shapefile holds the contour information. We'll do that here in a little bit. But for now, let's go back to that. And it says that we want to use for which layer that we put it on. This is where we tell it a layer. So we're going to just put it on the tile index layer, and you can type that to be anything you want. Or you could instead, if your data had layer information in the data, you could say use an attribute or even a feature name. If you use a feature name, it reads the name of the defined feature. In our case, is probably, tile index or something. Or if you say use an attribute, then it would put every single one individual index on its own separate layer if you want it. So we don't need all that kind of bifurcation in this particular one. We just want the index. And you see that other checkbox underneath where it's right under where your mouse is hovering, right? This says use inclusions.
Yeah.
We're going to use that in a little bit, but I want to bring in all of this data. This is all of the county data, and it's just the boundaries of the individual contour files. So go ahead and leave that unchecked. We will say apply coordinate transformation, because if you're in and I have no idea what that other data is in, it might be in UTM NAD 27 meters. I just don't recall. It doesn't matter because it's going to put it where it needs to be. So go ahead and choose OK. And here's again where you can assign from the data into, in this case, 2 of your properties, which we don't need, we're just boundaries. So we're just going to say import polylines. And just let it work. And now it's there. Now let's go to the layer menu for a minute. And let's change that tile index. Let's make it a color that you can, you know, like maybe yellow or something, so you can sort of see it separate. There you go.
That,
Yeah, anything to sort of make it stand out, just so you can tell it's on a separate thing. Now close that off. Now go ahead and do a zoom extents. And when you do that, you're going to see that brought in the whole county. All right. And so that is where, and what we had before with all of the contours, they were originally all of these, you know, the entire county. It would read the entire county before, and, you know, we just, once you're bringing in 2-foot contours for the entire county, we don't want to break it in all together. Now, that particular data in the GIS database was split, but not along these lines. It had its own separate partitioning, and it didn't line up with anything that I could use to help you figure out what you're doing. So what I did was, in my Esri software, I loaded all that stuff up, I mashed it all together, I merged it all together into a single file, and then I repartitioned it based on these boundaries. And that's why you have all of those long list of shape files, because they're going to correspond to these boundaries. Okay. Now, so this is something, now you don't really have to do it this way. I'm just showing you what I did to do this particular one. I'm going to show you something easier here in a minute as well. So what I did from this is I went up to the GIS data menu. So go ahead back to there. And I said, label GIS data, which is the last one in the upper block. And I want to do this inside closed polyline. Okay. And now it wants me to select the entities. So you can just draw a window around everything. And it doesn't matter if your
everything, the entire thing.
Yeah, or just however many you want to have. You know, you doesn't have to be everything. I'm just showing you what it would do. Now it's going to go ahead. Now you see it missed those bottom 2 most.
Yeah.
So those won't get labeled. If you want them, go ahead and just click on them, do a crossing down there. There you go. Now they're there. Now we say, okay, we finished our selection set. So just hit enter to finish the selection. Now, this is all of the data that's contained in that shapefile. And what do we want to use for the label? And if you scroll down on the left, there's a field that we're going to be using called the USNG name. So if we select that and then hit the right pointing arrow to move it over into the other category, there you go. That's going to be what it's going to use. So we're going to use the standard text style. We need to give it a text height. Now this is a ground height. And right now you're at a 200 scale drawing. So I would make these 1/4 inch labels. You know, so if I was to be a 1/4 of an inch, that's a 1/4 of 200 feet. That's 50 feet. I would select that and make it at least 50, that text height. There you go. And you could also add the name of the field to the text label. Let's uncheck that. We don't need that for, that would just put that USNG _NAME colon, a space in front of the data itself, which we don't need. And we don't want to pick the label location along each polyline. We don't want to click it for however many tiles. We're just going to let it go. And then we say draw. Now, you see the text that's being put into those tiles?
Yeah.
Zoom in now near your project and then select one of those pieces of text, and I'm going to show you what the property is. So if you select one of those, look in its properties, you see it went on a layer called boundary.
Yeah.
So you could have done that, or we could have told it to go on a layer called, we could put it on the tile index layer if we wanted as well. Okay. So, but that's okay. Just leave it what it is now. It doesn't hurt anything. We're not going to save this drawing necessarily. I'm going to show you an even easier or different way of doing this as well. So now go ahead and escape to clear the selection. And now if you zoom out a little bit and you see those tiles like that, yeah, so your project is actually sitting across two tiles. One's just barely, but that's essentially where you're, if you needed the contours that would be within that northeast corner there that's just barely over into the other tile, you would have to bring that other tile in also. So this is going to allow us to only bring in two tiles instead of the whole county to work with. And we also have the advantage of being able to put a little trimming option in. So let's go to a new layer and go ahead and create a layer called, trim boundary or cut boundary or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, trim BDY would be fine. And I would give it a specific color, like maybe one of the blues or something, so you can see it more easily. There you go. And make it current just in case. And there we go. So now what we want to do is we're going to draw a shape that we're going to use to trim out the data, because when this data comes in, it's going to come in all the way up to those tiled boundaries, unless we give it a trim that we can use. And we could do this even after the fact, but this will go ahead and at least do part of it. Okay, so just sort of draw a 2D polyline and make sure it says use the current drawing properties. It does. So we say, okay. And just sort of, hand sketch a little boundary around it. And, you can go outside like that. So that it has a little bit of coverage outside. There you go. And then when you're ready to finish, just type C to close. Now I would select that blue frame and sort of reposition that lower left corner to get it up a little closer to the property. Yeah, like in there, just wherever you want the contours to end. That's basically what you're doing, is you're putting a frame on here so that when you draw the map, it's going to bring in the contours and it'll stop it at that edge. Okay.
Okay.
So now press escape, and we're going to zoom in there and make a note of what that red text says. And this is of a form, Jefferson County is 18, and it will have an STJ and then a 4-digit number. Berkeley County is 17 CQ or something. I forget what the letters are, but it's those last four we're interested in to sort of keep track of, because all of these are 18 STJ files. So we're going to look for 5948, and the one to the right is what? If you scroll over there and see what that is. 6148. So 50, what did we say? Was it 5148 or 59?
5948.
Okay, so 5948 and 6148 are the two we're interested in. Okay, great. So Let's zoom back out a little bit. And let's go back to the menu, GIS, data. And we're going to, what you call it, import GIS data shapefile. There you go. And we're going to do just like you did on the tile index, except this time where it says select file and you see it's plural, so you can have more than one.
Yeah.
So we're going to get those two that we just identified. So we scroll down and find the 5948, excuse me, the 5948. And, you know, they're sorted. That's 41. Yeah, that's 4148. We want 5948. So keep scrolling down. And getting close. There we go. So there's 59. Oh, you went past it. So we go back up a little bit. Keep going. There's 48. Now click that once. Now hold the control key down and scroll down, or you can scroll before you hold the control key down, but you want to get 6148. So scroll down to find it, and you're going to, now you're still in the 59s. So there you go, 61. Oop, I just passed it. 6140. Now control and then click once. So now you have two files. You see up there in the file name field above it, you see the two files are listed. And we're going to say open. Okay, great. Now we're going to bring in, at this point, you don't necessarily need all of that data. We just want to assign it to layers and give it its elevation. So we can switch this to just geometry only. And now we're going to click over there. We do also want to elevate the contours, because the contours in that data set are not elevated, but they hold the elevation in a field. And so we're going to pick from the list of available fields, in this case, a field called elevation, which, you know, makes sense. And now we're going to put them on a particular layer. So if we go to the, not everything all on the same layer, but we want them to go on the index layer if it's an index contour, and an intermediate layer if it's an intermediate contour. And I've already split the data out of the data set and assigned it those layers. So go ahead and choose use attribute. Yeah. And now for the layer that you want to use, if you pull that down, we're going to look at a field, again, very cleverly named layer. Okay. And now the next thing to do is we're going to use inclusions, and that's that little blue boundary we drew. If we didn't, and you could do that, it would be just fine. You would see that the data would come in and go up to the edges of those tiles. And there's nothing wrong with that either. You could have done that. But this is another way of, let's say you didn't have the tiles and all you had was the entire county worth of data. If you said using inclusions, then you could put a frame around, you know, your area of interest, and it would clip it out. Now, the problem with that is, and the reason I split these out into tiles is because even by doing that, it still goes and reads the entire data set and then does the clipping. So it takes some time. So we don't want to spend that kind of time. So, but even at that, we're still cutting down from these two tiles. Now, using inclusions, you have some choices to the right of how you're going to use that. So right now, if it says window, which is not what we want, by the way, that means that anything that is going to be brought in and placed in the drawing has to be entirely within the object that we're going to choose, which has to be a closed polyline that you just drew. So we don't want to do window, we're going to use crossing. So in this case, it's going to bring in anything that is entirely contained within it, as well as anything that is at least partially within that boundary. And, let's say if you've got a bunch of contours drawn off to the right there that's outside your boundary, it won't bring those in. But if it partially crosses it, it's going to bring it in, and it's going to bring in the entire thing. That's okay. We'll handle that. So go ahead at this point now and say okay, and watch the prompts. So now it says select entities, but the line above says select the inclusion. So you're going to select the boundary that you just drew. Okay. And they can be more than one, but we're only dealing with the one. So we're going to finish our selection by hitting enter. And off it goes. Now it brings it in, and now you can see it brought in everything that was at least partially within that frame. So you don't see very much over in the other tile. And in fact, you don't see the entire tile on the leftmost tile. If we hadn't done this boundary, you would have seen those things go all the way up to the edges of that tile, of those yellow edges, okay? So now we're going to want to trim this stuff out, and to keep from trimming the other things, what I want you to do is to zoom in, say down around the corner. We're going to isolate some layers. We're going to isolate the blue layer. So we go to the layer isolate command, just your standard layer isolate. There you go. All right. So pick the blue thing, and then you want to pick, some contours. Just do a crossing and go up. So you want to make sure you get at least 5 so that you're getting, just, get at least 5, if not 6 or 7 consecutive. So you make sure you get one of the index as well as one of the intermediates. There you go. That should be good. Now hit enter. Oh, sorry. Go. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Let's see what's going on here a minute. Oh, shoot. Sorry, Mike. We need to fix this for a minute. Let's see what we have. Is it just the one?
What's the problem?
It didn't. It didn't bring it in. It didn't bring the things in based on the data like it should have. Let me see. What I was expecting it to do is this. So we're looking for 59.
59, 48, and 61, 48.
Yeah. I use this. What layer will be layer? Let's see. Let me try it this way for a second first. And see what the difference is. So if I select this.
But you're saying that this isn't the way I'm actually going to do it?
No, what we did before, that was the problem I was running into on those geodatabase stuff. Even though we told it to use those things, it still didn't do it. It brought them in at 0 elevation, and it dumped it on the layer of the name of the file that it was coming from. So that part's not working on Carlson's part. So in this case, if we do it this way, let me show you that. In fact, I'm going to let you go back and repeat that. this was really the only way I had done the testing, and I thought the other one, I thought this was going to work, but let's try this an alternate way. So go back to, and it's just a switch, but go back to the GIS data menu and bring in the shape files and go ahead and load those two files up again.
So it's 5948.
Yeah.
Nine 48 and 6148.
There you go. Now, instead of saying geometry only, which should have worked but didn't, leave it sitting on geometry with the data. And now with the layer options, we're going to use the attribute instead of same layer. So change that to use the attribute. Okay, now that becomes grayed out because it's going to ask us in the next step to tell it what attribute. That's fine. So we're ready to go. We make sure it says apply coordinate transformation and use inclusions by crossing. So we say, okay. And now select your inclusion area. Once you're through with those selections, finish your selection set by hitting enter. Now, here's where you make this assignment, and it's doing it by bringing in the data. We didn't necessarily need to, but the thing doesn't work right. So we're going to check on, first of all, the point ID. We're going to not worry about the point ID, but we do want the elevation. So this says to elevate the data, and it's going to, if you pull down on the arrow to the right, you see those same fields that we had. So we're going to use the elevation field. So that's going to set the contours on that elevation. And now you pull the layer down and choose layer. So it's going to read whatever is in the layer field of every one of these lines it brings in and assign it to that layer. So go ahead at this point and say import polylines. Okay, now go to your layers control. And we're going to go all the way down toward the bottom. We're going to find those two layers called WVGIS, Contour IDX, and Contour INT. Notice you can have, you can assign different colors, different line styles. So I would change, just so we can see them for now, go ahead and make, one of them red, one of them green, or, whatever you want to do just to see. You obviously wouldn't, plot a map that looked like that with red and, Christmas contours or there you go. There you go. Perfect. Okay. And that would close that. And you should see now, because it's done that, there is brought in all of the contours and assign them to their layers. And if you select one of those contours and look at its properties, you'll see that it has an elevation in the properties, and that elevation there is 1270. Okay. So far, so good. Now we're going to isolate some layers. So we go up to that isolate layers, and we want to pick the frame, that little blue frame that we drew. And we want to pick one each of the two different types of contours. There you go. That's all you need. Hit enter. All right, so now those are the only layers that are on in the drawing, and we're going to go next up to the edit menu, and we're going to say erase by closed polyline. Okay, so select the closed polyline, the perimeter polyline, that's that frame. And we want to change that to make sure that polylines is checked, which it is, and we're going to erase on the outside. Okay, say okay. Now you could even erase that little frame if you wanted to. You no longer need it. Okay, or you could put it on a layer and freeze it, however you want to handle that in your workflows. Okay, now let's restore the layers. So we go back to that. There you go. And so there would be, and if you zoom in on that, you would see, you know, up around the property. So there it is at 200-foot scale. Well, you got some relief on that property, doesn't there?
That's mountain.
Yeah.
It's
So,
steep.
yeah, so there it is. Now, what can you do with this? You can leave everything like it is, but let's say if you wanted that to be, instead of a 2-foot contour interval, you wanted to plot 10-foot contours. Well, you could just freeze the intermediates and that makes everything on 10-foot contours. What if you wanted 5-foot contours? Well, then what you'd have to do is build a surface, a terrain model using these contours, and then erase these contours, and you would redraw the contours from the tin file and tell it whatever interval you wanted. So not an ideal thing, but this has the 2-foot contours. All right. Now, to label the contours, and again, you might even want to, you know, you could even do, let's do this. I'm on the trim boundary. If I did something, you know, just barely, and I would do that same thing. I'm going to isolate just those layers. Find erase, there we go. Close polyline. On the outside. All right, so let me get that. And restore. All right, so now we've got all that. We could either freeze off these tile boundaries, or, you know, all we did was to use them to decide what to bring in. We could even erase those layers. So if I erase by the screen, now I don't want to choose that, because remember that went on a layer called boundary.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do that one. So I'm going to leave that one on. I'm just going to get rid of these greens, or the grids rather. I'm going to select this one text. And if I select similar, let me see, did it take anything else in the interior here? I don't think so. It's all M text.
Picked up that road going up the mountain. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, yeah, sure is. Yeah, so now I look over here, my paper text, like that was that 1/4 inch paper text. So I've got everything selected that I want. I'm just going to hit OK or hit the delete key. Now I'm going to show you though a sort of a way that we've sort of pre-done all that. So you notice what you did was you loaded up the grid index, the tile index. You loaded that from the data. You then use that to decide which of these data things that you wanted to load up as well. All right, so that's fine and dandy, but you don't need to load that tile, the index tile. You don't need to do that every time you want to do this, because those tiles never move. They're always where they are, and they're in Jefferson County and they cover the county. Same thing for Berkeley County. So what we will do and have done. I didn't notice that you had it in the download location. We'll go back and look, and if not, we'll grab it real quick. But there is a separate DWG file. And it might be there. I just didn't notice it. So this separate DWG file has already been made that is just the tile index and the labels, and they're already created. And so all we have to do, instead of doing that every time, is just externally reference that file, see what they are, and then we can detach it. But we'll come to that next. When we're looking here, let's say if we are, you know, at the point where we're going to finish up our mapping and we're going to use the contours that we've brought in, it'd be nice to be able to label them. And there's a couple of ways we can label them. If you if you were to go back to the GIS data menu, there is the thing that says label GIS data. And one of the options, and it's just like we did for the tiles, remember, where we plopped the field data down in the middle of the tiles. There's another option for polyline. This is a long polyline. And so you could say maybe, you know, have it go through and label the elevation along those polylines. But I've tried all that. I wanted to see how well it worked, and it's pretty crappy. You know, it just is sort of ish. But there's a much simpler way, and it's actually ideal, and it's the way that we do contour labeling, completely dissociated from GIS. So let's go back to the survey menus instead of the GIS menus. You can just click the little surveyor. There you go, the little total station. And now on the surface menu, we want to,
I've never used that menu before.
Oh, okay. So now you see there's a thing called, and it's in that upper block, but it says contour utilities. So we're going to be using two commands out of here a bit. So what we want to do is contour utilities. We're going to say contour elevation label right there. Okay. Now, here's where we set this up. We say we choose a layer, the label layer, and there's a set button up there. So go ahead and choose the set button. And we just, for now, are going to use the same layer that the index contour is on to hold the text. So we'll just choose that WVGIS IDX, say okay. And you could change text styles if you wanted to, doesn't matter. Index contours, which ones you want to label. Right now it says to label all, but we're going to pull that down and choose index only. Okay. And the index interval, 10 footers. So that's 2s and 10s. So that's perfect. Now the text size scalar, I would make that something like 0.08 or 0.06. You know, this is plotted inches. So there we go. And we don't need any prefix, suffix. We're going to say the integers. It's all no decimals. That's fine. We're going to put it right on the contour. And I like to put these on at their elevation. So I like to go over to the right and check on to draw on the real Z axis. Okay. We will align with the contour, and we're going to hide the drawing under the label, but we're not going to break the contour at the label. So uncheck that box where it says break. But we will hide underneath it, and that's going to basically just put a wipeout, just like your monument symbols, right, for your corner points. So, and that's going to give us some flexibility with something else to do. Plus, it's going to keep everything together. Now, the last little bit is this label by distance. If you click that one, right there, yep. And then over on the right-hand side, that is how often along the contour lines do we need to drop a label? No, I don't know. I know we're at a 200 scale map, but I don't know what that line represents. But if you know the ground there, the land there, maybe, I don't know, 500 feet or 100 feet. I don't know how big this property is. Probably it's pretty big.
It's about 50 acres.
Yeah, so I would set that to be about 500 feet. And it doesn't matter. You can always do it later to redo it. All right. And now say, okay. And now, you see, it says to select the contour polylines to label. And at this point, you just, you can just, you don't have to pick them individually. Just go up there and do a crossing from top to the bottom. Okay, like that. Just keep going right there. That's fine. And so now when it does that, now if there were other contour, if there, and that's fine, we're going to finish the selection. And so there they are, and it's only going to do it on the ones that have an even 10-foot elevation. Okay. So you notice that's where they dropped in. Now, if that boundary line, say, were a polyline, then it was on an elevation, it had an elevation that was on that interval, that would have been it would have labeled it too, because it doesn't really know that that's a quote contour. It's just looking at polylines. So now, so that's one method. So let's go to the erase, or the edit menu, erase, but we're going to erase by layer. You can pick up from the toolbar if you know where it is, up there on the layer toolbar, but erase by layer. And let's hit the clear button because it's got the last thing that we used in there. And then let's select layers from the screen, and let's pick one of those pieces of text, or even just one of the index contours. It's the same layer. Hit enter to finish. And now before you do that, uncheck the word all and just check text. And then just in case, go over and get the far right column, 2 up from the bottom, 3 up from the bottom where it says MText. Make sure you'll get both of those. And now say okay. All right, so that's one. Oh, let's see, we got to do something else here too. I forgot. We had, zoom in here. We've got the wipeout. So if I select one of those, which is the group of both text and wipeout, and now I'll select similar and delete. Okay. All right, so that was one way. Now here's the other way that's really the most flexible for you. So you don't have to worry about that distance interval, like that 500 foot. So if you go to the surface menu again, and we're going to go to the contour utilities. And this time, let's see that. Let's see. Oh, you know what? It may be because I was doing it with civil. Go ahead and choose that contour elevation label again. Right there. All right, let me take a look at something here. Yeah, that's going to be the only way you can do it. In civil, this command has a little extra functionality on it so that it doesn't have you pick this distance down here in the bottom. It just has you pick a line, and you draw a line across and everywhere it crosses those layers, it drops the label down. So, okay, that's fine. I thought it was the same command. I didn't, this is not, So why didn't those come in? Let's see.
Oh, I noticed that the last time we did it.
Well, but we only selected a select, you know, a couple of areas. You know, we only did a crossing on that other part over here. Let me see if I can find something out here. So if I select, if I'm going to isolate. And if I PC label here, indexes only, 10 foot, 08, on, ignore zeros, draw on a real line, hide. But I don't want to break it. And if I undo this, let me see if that's going to do what I wanted. Yeah, that's great. So you do have it after all. That would have been fine. I'm sorry, I steered you in the wrong direction. And I also wound up breaking these contours. All right, so instead of going back and healing them up again, we're gonna ignore those two there. All right, so if we choose surface, contour utilities, contour elevation label, we're going to put it on a particular layer. We're going to label the index ones only. So we're looking for a 10-foot interval. We have a height of 0.08, no prefixes and suffixes. All the integers, that means, you know, if it's 5,240, is going to put 5240 instead of just, you know, 240. Sometimes you see maps done that way. The decimals is how many decimal places. We of course want 0 on there. We're going to be on. We're going to hide. We're going to draw on the Z axis. Will align with the contour, and we're going to uncheck this break contours at label, because you see what happened is when I ran it the last time and I didn't pay attention to there, it actually physically chopped a hole in that line. I don't want that to happen. So we'll keep that in mind next time. And I had you turn this one on to label by distance. That let us pick that distance. But if you leave it off and say, okay, now I'm going to let you drive. He wants you to pick the first point, or you can have a polyline already drawn. So you're going to draw a line. Wait a minute, back out a little. So you're going to draw a line that starts on the outside of the data and comes across the lines, across all of those contour lines. So just pick a point, say a little bit up to your, yeah, like that. Keep coming across. And there you go. And if you click there, now you're going to see everywhere you do that, and it's still in the command. So you can go over to another part of the drawing file and do some more like that, or you could draw the entire thing, you know, left to right. Or, you know, get specific as to, you know, which ones you wanted and where you wanted those to be. Okay. And then you got those last four, the last two. Well, yeah, you got those. And then you've got the, now you missed that one down in the corner. So anytime, if you look at these and you say, oh, I missed one, just draw that little line again that crosses. You don't have to cross everything. You can cross just one if you need. So you see those last two in the northwest up there, the last two, maybe three. Just, you know, so that one's, yeah, right in there. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay, so any of those and all of those, and you can move them around, you can delete them. So when you're done, you hit enter. And now there's a neat little command that helps you neaten this up as well. If you go up to the same menu, the surface menu, and under the contour utilities, up, keep going back right there. Same place where we got the labels. We're going to go over to the right now and choose move label along the contour. Notice there's also a flip contour labels in case it's upside down, you want to change it. But if you choose that, go ahead and choose that. Now zoom in fairly close and let's look around the road contours there for a minute. Yeah, see how those contours, you might not want them to be right in the midst of those road crooks. So just pick like that number 750 or the 850 or any of those, just click on it, choose the text. And now as you move the cursor, you see that little box? That's where it's going to put it. So you get it in a more convenient location and it moves text and wipeout, which is why we did not want to break the line. If you break it, it doesn't let you do this. If you hide it, it lets you do this. So, and that's, that's fine, but you might want to move that one, you see how you're right in the middle of a sort of a kink in the contour line?
Yeah.
You might want to move that to where it's, like a little further out to the, like right there. Yeah, right in there. And so, you get them to where they're lined up the way you want them. Now you may have some other things like and go ahead and hit enter to finish that command. And you can just do that all day long till you're happy with it. And you may have some things like if you look in this area, say, well, that's 740, I could move it. And, place it up in here or down here, someplace that's a little bit more. But now you see that everything else is reading this direction until we get up to here. And that's because these contours are sort of north, almost directly north. Well, one of those commands up there as well is this contour utilities. And instead of moving, you can flip it. Okay, so you select the one you want to flip and it turns it around for you. So it basically does a 180-degree rotation, just you don't have to do that. You don't have to do the rotation, okay? So those are some tools that you can use. We'll restore the layers. So, that would be, where you might want to start looking. So this is a great little indicator. For instance, if I were going to go out there and try to retrace this property and I'm looking for these monuments, well, I can tell just visually that I'm going to be looking along this road bed, whether that's just an old logging road or whatever, I don't know. But I'm going to be looking for stuff around in there. So that could be helpful. Okay. Now there's a couple of other things that you have that's even more helpful as well. And they're also part of this GIS data that we can use. So if you go back to the GIS module, there you go. Now go to your GIS data menu. Now remember, the files that we originally set up are still running, they're still there, and that's okay. But just sort of keep an awareness of them in your head. But now we've got some other sources of some data. And we looked at that import GIS data shapefile. That's what brought in the tiles and brought in the contour lines. But let's look at the other one that's more immediate and doesn't have a lot of cost in terms of time and processing speed. And that's where it says Esri Arc GIS Services. It's the second one down in that block of importing things down toward the bottom. Right, go back up right there. Okay. So if we choose that, notice this is downloading, please wait. So what it's done is it's downloaded a list of publicly available Esri data, and you choose the server layer. That means which layer of information do you want to bring into your map? So let's pull that down. Right now, we're going to see the world dark gray base map. We don't want that. If we pull that down, You see, and these tend to be worldwide data sets. Okay. And the ones that I've done a lot of these, like the soil survey map tends
Yeah.
to not really be very dense, especially in your area. But all of those others have some decent stuff in it. But the one that really gives us the most is the world imagery. Keep coming down. World imagery, right? One above, right there. Okay. Now where it says image resolution, I would switch that to high. There you go. And I would say, okay.
You want to draw it in the background or no?
Yes, I'm sorry, we should do that. So, and say, okay. And now it wants you to pick a corner of a bounding box. So you want to make sure you're, down and to the left or up, whichever way you start the box, because it's going to be rectangular. And that's why you're going to just pick it and you don't have to pre-draw it. Now go up. There you go, like that. And now you have to give this an image file name. See, it says image file to save.
Yeah.
And I would put it in wherever you're working on your project. Is this the Herbst file? Then I would leave it right there and just give it a name. And I would just call it, site background or something like that. Or site aerial, anything that you want to call it, aerial base map, whatever makes sense. And you don't have to hit browse. You're already positioned. So just hit save and give it a second or two. And you're going to see it pop into place here as soon as it downloads it. And then once it does, that's going to be on a layer that you can freeze. And it's just essentially attaching that image file, but it's also, putting it in the right coordinate space and all of that. So should be coming up here pretty soon.
What download stuff like vegetation, trees and stuff?
Yeah, that particular service that you saw didn't have, this is just for imagery. So now you can zoom in and see. And so if you're out there looking for corners, you can take this with you. It's a really good planning method. You could even turn off, you can freeze those contour layers if you wish, if you wanted to, if you wish, to sort of get your, oh, by the way, it's asking you to pick another bounding box. Just hit enter to end. You want to hit enter. Okay, there you go. So now you can go out there and freeze layer by pick, or you can do it that way if you want to, either way. Yep, just click it there and the one underneath it, and that's good to go. So that's now there, you've got the data, but you can turn it on and off, and now that gives you something you can use.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, isn't that neat? And there's all kinds of data out there, some that has more utility to it than others, some that aren't really, in my opinion, put together very well, particularly larger things like soils boundaries and stuff. People were kind of sloppy when they made the mapping to begin with. But the fact that
for me, that's this is more valuable than
oh yeah,
contours, because I don't need those very often. Now Chuck Sager in Berkeley County will need contours all the time.
Yep. So this is, a couple of things that we can do with it. Plus we can, we'll show you how to do a real quick location inset map for when you're doing your platting as well, that we can do with it. So now, so scroll that back a little ways, and you can, let's freeze that image, or even just select it and delete it. If this is going to be useful for you, leave it in here. I'm not trying to tell you to take it down. In fact, if this is useful for you with what you're doing, go ahead and save your file. And so you'll have those contours and things in it. And then so do with what you will with this. And let's talk about a couple of other.
What layer did we put this on?
Let's go just,
Image.
but there's a shortcut for that, Mike. Just on your layers toolbar, you see that third icon across, where you isolate your layers and restore them. Yeah, that tool. Yeah, just freeze layer by pick. And when you do that, just pick the edge. You can't pick inside the image. You got to pick it. There you go. Well, you run the command again. It missed it the first time. So just right there, click, and now pick. Yep, right there. And now hit enter to finish, and you're done with that. Now, so that's frozen that layer. Now, what else can we do? If you go back and look at that command again on the GIS data menu. Okay, and it's down in the importing part, and we did that Esri ArcGIS services. Let's do that one more time. Right there. And that was, so it brings down everything that it can find, and we chose world imagery. Okay, and that's good. That's a really nice, crisp set of data. Pull that down again, and you can see some of the other things that you have, and you can bring these down at your own wish. There's the NGS topo, and that will bring basically the topo sheets, the old USGS stuff. There's a physical map, shaded relief map, a street map, and all of those world terrain and world topos. They're things that are at different levels of accuracies, and and things like this world hill shade. It brings down basically some shaded, some grayscale stuff that sort of makes your contours stand out. So you would look at them, the parts that would be in shadow, if the sun were shining across them, would be a little darker shade. It's not anything that's going to be of very much use for you in terms of putting together a static map, but they might be good for a cartographer that's putting together an artistic type map. You can try your soil survey map, and let's see if it's defined down in that area. But I'll show you what happens if it doesn't work. So that's fine. You could give it a CAD layer. Let's go up there and just click to the right of the word image in the field. No, see see where the word says image in the CAD layer?
No.
Right in the middle of the dialog box. It says CAD layer. Keep coming down 2 lines. Now go.
Okay.
Yeah, right there where it says image, click to the, well, okay, you can do it there too. Just type image dash soils. Okay, and say okay. And now say okay. And now just go down lower left, upper right, and see if it finds anything. Sometimes it won't. In this case, I want you to see what happens. And now just type soils. And hit save. So see, there you go. It comes up and gives you this. I couldn't remember if it gave you an error message or not. So, okay, so it didn't find it, no problem. We just say okay and move on. So we hit enter to finish our bounding box. Keep an eye on the prompt. So now we're done with that, and we could go on, move on. So those are some of those sets that are there. You don't have to do anything in particular to bring them in. Now there's another one. If you go up to the images pull down, and you saw how clear everything was and how really in place everything looked with the world imagery that we got. Now, if you pull this down and choose place Google Earth image, third one down right there. Okay. Now give this one, and I would just call this Google. And again, we're naming a file. Just put google.png. just to tell it which file type. There you go. And hit save. And it's going to ask us the same type of thing. You want to pick it from the screen or from a map. We're going to say from the screen. If you had chosen map, it loads up a web browser and lets you scroll to it that way. But we're going to pick the there and go up and click. And we're going to say place information right now, medium. We're going to pull that down and get high to make sure if it's going to be, oops, there's nothing available. So it's just going to be medium. We'll choose aerial and look at your types. You've got aerial, you've got street map, you've got a hybrid, or you've also got terrain, which is kind of rough. It's you can look at those when you play with it if you like. And then you see it's got the same type of things. It's already got the image file down below where it says set file. We've given it the name. There's a set layer. We've
Google.
Yeah, but I would leave the images as a prefix. So just click to the right of that word. Yeah, and dash Google. Because that way all your layers are going to be in alphabetical order and you'll find them image or imagery or any of that. Place in background, say okay. And so when this comes in, this is another useful way. If you don't know where you are in the world, you haven't done any surveying and you want to try to get to where it is. So now there's that site. So that comes from Google Earth, Google Maps, but you can see, this is all under tree cover. So this is,
Not too helpful.
Yeah, it's not too helpful here. And it's also not as accurate. If we could compare the two, you would see that the road edges don't necessarily all line up, but still it gives you an idea, it gives you a sense of where things are. Now, and I would just select that image and hit delete if you, if you didn't want to keep it. Now, that command on the images menu, you can do that without ever declaring those two files and all that, where you're loading everything up to use from here. All right, so that's one thing. Now, if you go to the GIS data menu, there's a couple of other sources, and I want you to start thinking about some of this here, and I'll show you how to start that process. Right now, there are two features we haven't looked at yet. One's called the WFS, or the Web Feature Service, and there's another one that is two below that called the REST services. So let's look at the WFS, Web Feature Service. Wow, and it wants to know a bounding box. So again, go down, just click a little bounding box. And that's fine. It's not all that important because it's now downloading this and it says, okay. But now if you look at see that server URL field up there at the very top field and you've got a pull down. And you see you've got these different sources available.
Right.
And these are preloaded with, I see there's like the FEMA National Flood Hazard Mapping is down there, the second one down. This is from the CARTO service, which is the transportation. So that might be roads. I doubt you'll see many roads out there. You won't see anything on the flood mapping, but what else do you have? You got contour structures, things like that. So just look at the contours, for instance. One more down. Okay. Go ahead and click that. And now it's going to look at that particular server and it's going to give us a list of all of the things that it finds, in which case I see that it found nothing. So sometimes this will happen on these big national data sets. But let's see what else we might have. If we get transportation, let's see if it finds anything. And I'm going to hazard a guess that there's not a lot out here. I don't see anything there. What is this? Government units, polygons, selectable structures. It's not finding any data in this particular location. And that's probably to be expected. You're out here in the middle of, the side of a mountain. Let's try that one more time. I want to go over, make sure I'm getting some part of that main road out here. I remember from the photograph. Let's see, even at that, it still may not find anything. All right, so that's the transportation server. I don't see anything there. All right, so there's our national floodplain. These are all of the data sets that are available. Now, you could do things like, let's see here, what are we more interested in? If we had areas, I want the boundaries, the hazard zones. So here's a hazard zone and a hazard boundary. So if I turn these things on,
What if political jurisdictions?
like what township, county, whatever,
Okay,
about there, it's just information that's stored with this particular data set. And it might not even be graphic, like well, most of this stuff is that I'm looking at. Oh, the firm panels. See, that wouldn't that's just going to be a panel number.
right.
So this would work if I wanted to see. Now it's still probably going to tell me that it can't find anything, but the way this is supposed to work, these are things that come out of these servers, and they right now are preset to go on particular CAD layers. Here's one called firm panels, flood hazard boundaries, and flood hazard zones. So you can change that, so if I put the panel number on that thing, I chose it for come on, what's going on here? Anyway, you can change those layer assignments, but they're preset, you can see, and it's probably not going to find anything in this. It found the data being defined in the area, but I'm betting there's no information drawn in those areas, unless I went out far enough that I did encounter some of the flood mapping zones. I don't know, where are we in proximity to rivers and creeks? I'm not familiar with the site. So
Not close,
anyway,
on top of the mountain.
yeah, that's what it was looking like. So I doubt there's anything there. But so that's there. But the thing that's nice about that, and what a lot of people sadly don't chase down, is that, okay, those are all sort of national level WFS servers, but there's a bunch of WFS servers at WVU. Okay, so it didn't find anything, and it just sort of craps out of the command and without showing anything there at all. Okay, so what we have are these servers that are available at the university, where all this data is stored. Now I got something sort of hanging here. Hmm. May have to get out and back in here. I'm not getting a response. It's trying, I think. Let's just fix this. Come on. Can you still hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't know how much of everything I may have locked up. So the Zoom is still going.
what did you click to get Task Manager?
I just right clicked in the taskbar at the bottom in the Windows status line, not the CAD stuff, but just I right clicked down here and a little menu popped up. Now I see I've locked up everything. But when you, yeah, now we're back. Hang on.
I'm not locked up.
Yeah, so go up there and close that task manager for the moment. Just close it. There you go. Now go down to the command line and you should be able to just escape, maybe even Control C. I think we're still locked. Carlson's trying to do something and it's just sort of in an infinite loop. So now point to that status bar, the Windows status bar, and right click and choose Task Manager. 3 up from the bottom, or yeah, 2 up from the bottom, whatever it is. Now go up and select Carlson and end task. All right, now come back to that drawing. All right, so that's fine. And I would just
Yeah, that is so much clearer.
yeah.
That was world imagery. Is that what that was?
Yep, and that was from the GIS data menu, and it said go ahead and pull that menu down. The GIS.
Let me go ahead and click this off.
Oh, okay. There you go. Hit enter to finish the command. Or escape, either one. Now go back to GIS data. So that came from import ARC, or not import, but Esri ArcGIS services. It's that one there that has all of those. And you pull that down. So instead of soil survey, that was called world imagery. Okay. Now it's not always leaf off. It's not always necessarily superior good, but it's usually, I've never run into a case where it was really unusable. So that part, and in fact, it's usually more usable than say the Google images, which tend to be newer, but they're less accurate. They're far less accurate. But Google will at least get you in the neighborhood, which is its intended purpose. You know, we got to remember it's not Google's fault. They didn't, go out and survey the world. So in any case, that's sort of some of the things you can do there. But the idea is on this WFS servers is you can add and delete a list of available servers. So if you go in your browser, go ahead and minimize Carlson and go to your browser. And let's go back to that West Virginia GIS data clearinghouse.
Oh,
You showed me the first day you showed me. Maybe you get it from an email or something. I don't know. There's a link that gets you there. You could even go to the, if you've got other sites. There you go. Yeah, like that. Was it data.wvgis, that lower right one? Is that the one? No, the icon on the screen itself. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
well, yeah. All right, so now, if you look at the title at the top, this is an elevation data set, and it is from LiDAR products. That's fine, but keep going up to this parent directory. You see at top, it says to parent directory.
No.
top of the leftmost column. Right there.
Oh,
So go up one level. And now you're at this level. And see, there's some of that hillshade stuff. You got the contours, point clouds, slopes, going up another level. What do you have? Let's see. Let's go up, keep going up. One more, let's see. Now we're at elevation, and now you got 10-foot contours, 10 meters, bluestone region, LiDAR index, all these different kind of things we can use. Jackson County LiDAR. Spot elevations, West Virginia East, FEMA R3 2016 LiDAR. So different things you could use. Go up one more. And now that was elevation. So what else do we need, or do we know? We've got boundaries. That's one that we might want to look at. Got transportation, planning, land use, all those different kinds of things. So let's look at boundaries for a sec. All right, and what do we have? We've got the Appalachian states, census boundaries, county boundaries. Let's see if we can find one that makes sense for us. Like Morgantown wards, we don't need. State forest, public lands.
well, the National Park Service boundary, the property we're just looking at is bordered by the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, okay. So let's go ahead and click that.
Which one?
Well, the LL 83 versus UTM 83. I don't know. Let's go down to where it just says National Park Service boundaries. Right there.
That one.
Yep. And what do we have here? Surface ownership. Let's look at the top one. Yeah. All right, now these are all zip files. So these are letting us, if you go ahead and get either of those top ones, let's get the shape file one, not the GDB one. That one, yes. And so that's now downloaded. It's in your downloads folder. If you go to that and open that up, go up a level. You're right now sitting in your, oh no, we're there. But do the extract all. And let's decide where we're going to put it. Right now, it's going to go in downloads, national park boundaries. So we want to make sure it goes to our GIS data. Yep. Now I would make a new folder. So just right click, no, go up above, right click and choose new folder. And I would just call it for US Forest Service or USFS something. National, yeah, whatever it was. Okay. And once you create that folder, then double click inside it to go to it. There you go. Now hit select folder and you're good. And extract. Okay, so back to Carlson. You now have, just like we did for the contours, you've brought the data and stored it on your local machine. You go ahead and, yeah, go back to your Carlson map. Now zoom out a little bit so you can find to where you, whenever you get ready to bring this in so that you know where the boundary is going to be within your bounding box. So now go back to GIS data and you import GIS data. And this is going to be a shape file. Okay. Now select your files and navigate to that location. Well, that's not fun. Let's see. What do we have there? Well, where's the shape file? There's the index file, there's the projection file, there's the dbase file, the data that it holds, everything except the shape file. Let's see here.
It's on the other screen.
All right. Go ahead and bring it across so I can see it. There you go. All right, so yeah, look at that. It does not include the shape file. Well, see, there's part of the problem. All right, so let's see if we can, no, I don't need this. You don't need this one anymore either. That's those clipped contours. Let's try something. Well, that's definitely got the data in it. So National Park and MPS. All right, now. All right, so we can bring in, it's only got one feature and that's the boundary. Same layer, or we could use an attribute. See, let's just use an attribute for the layer. Apply that. Geometry with the data. No need. All right, so that should work. Imported 5 closed polylines from the feature. Now, if I do that, I have suspicion, yeah.
Boy, what a mess.
Yeah, so this is, wow, that is one continuous polygon. Not much sense. Let's take a look at it.
That's down on the river somewhere.
Yeah, so if I look at my GIS data, I'm going to now look for, that's that. Okay, what feature? That would be my national park boundaries. Let's just see everything that is stored with that. So if I hover the mouse, I see that that is the New River Gorge National River.
Okay, that's in the southern end of the state. That's really far away.
I know, what the heck is it? But we'll see, when I was reading that, where it says that it's a unit nomenclature, the New River Gorge National River, it may have nothing to do with what this is right here. It's just how it's stored. And again, this is a National Park Service sort of thing. Yeah, so that those boundaries weren't terribly helpful, were they?
Not any helpful.
Yeah.
Worthless.
Well, I don't feel so terribly bad. You know what? That might be where it is. Because if this is up here in Jefferson County, come up the Panhandle, back and across and down the state, that
I
might,
don't think I don't think it's far enough away for that.
yeah,
What's
probably
that?
not. Yeah, because you're talking a lot of miles and that's not a lot of miles. Well, here, I'll tell you what, let's bring in the um, let me see. Let me see if you got what I was looking for here. Yeah, maybe we don't have it. If you go to, open up your email where I sent you the link of the data to download. You know, where you got the Jefferson and Berkeley contours.
Okay, I'm looking for it. Yeah, okay.
And go back to that link and let me look at the what you're seeing. All right, so you see that DWG file? That
Yeah,
also need to bring down. So just select that and choose down. Well, you have to, okay, there you go. Now choose download. And put that in, well, it's going to go into your downloads folder, but then you want to move it to that West Virginia GIS folder. Yeah, it's one, the third one down. Right there. So you want to move that, copy or paste or cut better, okay? And then go to now you see that upper folder, Jefferson Berkeley GIS contours, double click that. And now that's where you want to paste it. Wait, how come it's there? There's something there already. Go ahead and try paste, and if it asks you to overwrite, go ahead and overwrite it. Yeah. Replace the file. Yes, that's fine. Okay, now let's go back to Carlson. And let's
Should I get rid of this stuff?
well, leave it there for a sec. I want to see how it falls. So go back to Carlson, and now let's XREF either by your layer manager or by the XREF command. Go to the external references, right click attach. No, where you were over there, right in there. Yeah, right click attach. And you want to go to that GIS data. Right there, get the DWG file. I don't know why they didn't show up last time. All right, say open. And just type 0,0. Hit enter, enter, and enter. All right, so there's your, enter one more time. All right, close that off. Now, if you look up there, remember when you brought the Jefferson tiles in?
Yeah.
Now zoom in there and you can see you've got everything already done. And since that was static and never changing, all you have to do is reference this file and you can see what it is you need to do. And you don't have to do that step of it anymore. Okay. Now zoom back out though, and I want to see. Now we don't have the entire state background, but keep zooming out. So you see, you're talking about those two Eastern Panhandle counties.
Right.
That might be down in the New River, do you think?
Yeah.
If you can envision, you know what the rest of the state outline looks like.
Yeah. That's probably where it is.
Yeah, so that could have been, decent enough data. It just wasn't well prepared. So, all right, so that part's okay. So let's, now you can just select those and get rid of them. So now, but that's a situation of from that, yeah, and now you can either, yeah, you can either unload that reference or you can detach it, however you want to deal with that tile boundaries. Now, if you just select it and delete it, it doesn't detach it. It leaves the record.
Okay, so how do I detach it?
Just like you attached, go back there, select it out of your list. And it's that very top one.
That one?
Yeah, and right click and choose detach. Right there, there you go. And wait, you want to say now delete the record and all one entities. Go ahead and now close. All right, so that was all stuff where you can download the data if you know what it is you're looking for and if you know that it's good data. Which we did not necessarily. Where is our?
Okay, we were talking about location inset?
Yeah, but these, this clearinghouse stuff is what I was going to show you. Is it on your other screen, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. All right, so now, where we are in this clearinghouse is where this static data lives, and we can go there, download the data, put it in our directories and use it, and hopefully, it's in good shape. Now, the thing that's live, though, that works with those servers that I was telling you about, is we're going to go to a different, instead of the clearinghouse, we're going to go to the this place here in the West Virginia Technical Center. And you see these different, now here's your imagery for leaf off and leaf on.
Mhm.
And let's look at, and the Sheriff's Association has they've got 1 foot, 12-inch rural, 4-inch urban pixel resolution. Up here, you've got this sheriff's imagery updated with more recent, typically 6-inch resolution. So 1/2 foot resolution instead of these 2 foot and 10 foot and 1 meter. So if we look at that and look at this thing called link, there's this column called REST services.
Mhm.
So there's one link under this column just called information. It's going to take us over there, and let's see, it's statewide, and it has a West Virginia GIS TC leaf off web service. So that's one service. Let me see what that is. So now, if we look at this, you see up here, you got these different categories, this JSON, WMS, SOAP. These are all different types of servers. And you can look at, let's say, if I'm using ArcGIS Pro, that's the software that I use from Esri. It takes this and loads it into that. That's how I basically cracked all your contours into those tiles. But you don't have to do any of that. You can look at it straight in the online viewer, for instance, on all layers and tables. But what's going on is, you see that top line, it says ArcGIS REST Services Directory.
Yeah.
That means that's where you are. You are in a REST services server right now. And if you put that, I'm going to come up here to this address, select it, right click, copy. And let's go back to Carlson now. And under GIS data, there's that REST services.
Mhm.
So I bring that down, and now I look under here and there's nothing. Excuse me, there's nothing there. So I'm going to add a service. So the service I'm going to add is going to be right click, paste. Okay, and as long as it is a REST services server, when that's there, it will, well, let's paste it. Is there something wrong with? It's not finding it. Well, there's something apparently wrong with, all right, it says map server pound number. Let me see if, there we go. All right. I had an extra character in that server address. And so that's the thing, is it never tells you what the problem is. It just won't bring it there. So now we're bringing in this REST server data that has all of these different categories. Now you can drill into those categories and, so that you don't have to download all of this stuff. And it's not downloading the data, it's just downloading the categories. But this basically will bypass this need to go to that clearinghouse, download and save the data, unzip it, and then go back to Carlson and load it in. It's basically going to cut out the middleman. Okay, so you've got, and you notice it's just the same name, what its layer name, that's the layer of information, and the CAD layer name. So if you had, let's say there's Jefferson, we're gonna click it, and we're gonna, well, first, I guess we'll say geometry with data. Now let's look at Jefferson. If I click that, it's gonna put it on this layer called Jefferson 2022. Now, see, I should be able to go over here and choose from these different, all of these different categories, like the entity ID. I want to say, well, there's nothing there. There's nothing in the description, and there is no data in that that's going to allow me to store it here. If I were, however, using one of these other, wherever I happen to be, that's just an image. But if I had some other data up here, like, and I don't know what else is involved, what else was available in that overall total that I brought down, you might even have like, voting district boundaries, or, school age population with diphtheria. Yeah, I don't know. It's these different things. But if I have Jefferson on, and I'll say, okay, and now it comes down here, says error, I can't find the source's spatial reference. Okay, great. So that was pretty worthless. Let's see. So I'm going to remove that. So yeah, that was all leaf off imagery. That should have been, available for us from the server. See, imagery base maps. Yeah, see these different interfaces. There's a REST interface. So if I click on that, that is just the data that it needs. Let me see here. Let me see if this will get us where we're looking for it. Something. See, this is the frustrating part about it, Mike, and we're not going to spend any more time here. I'm just going to see if I can get one of those to work here. If I take this like that. It's still got a invalid. I go back one. I'm right here. So it has that interface. I have no idea why it's. Because see, these things are all working. They're all working with mine. But I pull those down. I can pull those down and get access to those different things. We can troubleshoot that another day if we need. I don't want to sit here and just spin the wheels on this part of it, but anyway, that's how you do this stuff. You sort of have to get some people, maybe call and talk to somebody that says, hey, can you give me the REST server? Can you give me the WFS server? Any of these types of services that I may need. And you can do the same thing with that WFS, which is a, so it's going to be here and it's going to bring up everything here with the WFS.
What's WFS?
Well, it's one of those server types that brings down this federated data. And here's and you basically have these servers. And that was the national map, the FEMA boundaries, all of those, the things that are preset are there now. You can also add a server name, just like the REST server. If it's not a WFS service, it won't. So you failed to get server capabilities, so it won't recognize them. So you have to know what those URLs are to be able to put those in. And then when you do this, you can pull this down and just choose from that preset list. So I'll continue to look at that a little bit deeper because I got some data area and I got some things already set up, and I'll take a peek at it. And I don't recall exactly where I got that stuff and set them in, but I'll do that offline. So we're not.
Hey, I don't have too much more time today. Can we do that stuff for Sager?
Yeah, that's what I said. I will do that stuff another day. And I'll do that stuff offline. So let's go to what do we want to go to next part of this for the.
Well, I've got these two. Can you see my desktop?
Yep.
He's got these two sites that this is
Okay.
based off the flood tool.
Yep. All right, so we want to get what all do you need for that? What does he need for that?
2-foot contours.
Okay.
Well, the imagery would be nice too, but something we can save in a DWG file that I can.
Yep.
He does not use Carlson. He uses AutoCAD and some other program that he used to work. He used to work for the Park Service.
Okay.
And whatever it was they use is what he has.
All right.
He's talking about converting to Carlson, but I don't know if it will or not.
All right. So you're talking about, go ahead and let's see, we'll go back to that in a minute so we can see so jot down that lat long.
Okay, let me get it here.
Or you got a parcel number, put anything like that that we can use to get started.
Okay, let me find it. Hold on. I'm getting something to write on.
All right.
Okay, let's see. Flat and long is 39.4514. 880 466. Let me get the other one while we're here.
Yeah.
And this one is 39.5779. 7959 minus 77.9658.
Oh, I see you've actually got the UTM coordinate. So you got the meters and UTM zone 17.
Yeah,
You've got those as well. So I'm just wondering, we just need some way to get close to where we need to be.
okay, well, I've got both, I've got the Latin long.
All right.
Okay, should I open a new Carlson file called Sager?
Yep.
Use a template,
Yep, that's fine.
I guess.
Uh-huh. And I don't know that we have one special, just leave it by default. That's fine. Now give it a name and a location.
I have no idea what scale it would be. Probably not 50.
Yeah, 50 is fine to start with. We can change it later. Right.
Well, should I do two, Sager 1 and Sager 2, or just put them both in the same file?
Yeah, they're not over top of each other, are they?
No, they're probably pretty far apart.
Yeah, I'd leave them together. Same file is fine. Now, apparently you were going to put this in Carlson projects. You didn't.
No, I don't want to put it there.
Well,
It's too late.
no, that's fine. Just hit cancel on this part. Because this is setting the coordinate file up. We don't need that part to worry about. Now, what's the data path up at the top right there? Choose set. And you're going to go to your desktop, what you call it, wherever you put your projects. Yeah.
New folder, call it Sager. Where'd it go?
Well, I saw you had a Sager folder already made on there, but don't you have like your desktop SHEPP surveying Carlson kind of stuff that you want to be in and stuff? There you are, SHEPP location. So click on the, go up above. Do you have a Sager in there?
Oh,
Yeah,
there's the Sager folder.
yeah,
Okay.
there's that, but I don't know what may or may not be in that.
That's just those two PDFs of the.
All right, well, they can stay there, but click on SHEPP land surveying and mapping. And now, while that is clicked on, scroll down on with the right and see if you have a Sager folder already. You do not.
No, it's this one. It's
Oh.
somehow.
Okay, then if you click on that, can you right click now and rename? Yeah. All right, so even though you didn't see it, I see in that top line, it's in the right place.
Okay. Next.
Now you're fine, just hit next. All right. Now, we don't know where any of that stuff was, but we need to be able to sort of zoom into that location. So if we go to,
I could go to points and enter a point with let long.
that's what we want to do. Now, I want it in decimal degrees. Is that what you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
$39.451781 minus 77.880. Should I go ahead and enter the other one?
Yeah, might as well. Well, first you gotta finish that. It's asking for a description on the point, which don't need now. Oh, well, go back and repeat it. It had prompted you next for the elevation and then the description, so. There you go. And enter, or whatever you want. I'd say point number one.
It somehow didn't get that other one, apparently.
That's what it looks like. Yeah, so you just got the one. And I think it was the one you just now put in, so go back and put the first one in again.
Okay. I don't know what I did there.
Part of it, one of the things I've noticed that you, and a lot of people do this, is sometimes you'll switch over to another command before you finish out the command you're working on. And sometimes that can cause some problems. So just keep your eye on that command line. Make sure it says enter a command or something. Well, first of all, see, back, it's not asking you for the latitude. It's asking, do you want to enter it in decimal degrees? Yes or no?
Yep.
There you
I
go.
got it.
Yeah.
Case in point.
Yep. And don't feel bad about that, Mike. Everybody does that. I do that constantly and I go, crap, maybe I should pay a little more attention. So.
Okay.
All right, there you go. Now zoom to your extents and
Oh, I'll bet the points are not,
oh, all you did was assign them. You didn't draw them yet. Okay, there you go. So draw, locate, and put them all in. Yeah, just. And enter one more time. No, ZE was not the answer. Now you can do a ZE.
I'm still not seeing anything.
There they are. So they were there, but at 50 scale, that's the size they were going to be. So I don't know, let's see, if that's at 50,
Well, he's not gonna want it at 50, it's gonna be at least at 100.
well, yeah, but it's not gonna change the size of what we give him. That's just for text and stuff.
Okay,
So if we center around this one, so that was that first area. And we want to sort of get up in the air a little bit, I don't know how tight I am because I don't know what that was a picture of. But get to a location about like that. And then the first thing I would do is I would go over here to GIS and I'm going to go up to images and I'm just going to bring in the Google Earth image at, and this is going to be my Sager. Is it 1 or 2? It's around, what was my point number?
1, so that would be Sager 2, actually.
Yeah, it is the Sager 2 site, but it's that one. All right, and so I'm going to do it either from the screen. Now here, I'll show you the difference on the other one, because this is the way we can do it from the screen. And I'm just going to basically say that's sort of the center, and I'm going to come out here and go to here. And I want high resolution, and all I want is the road map, the aerial map, a hybrid, or the terrain. Let's get let's use a hybrid. Sager 2, place in background, go. And so when this is going to come in now, if we can get a sense of what was that image that he gave us.
Okay, we can look back at that.
Yeah.
Nope, not on that one. Now, let me just minimize this real quick. So that was the second one, right?
Yep.
Oh, the railroad there.
Road and a railroad.
I don't see a railroad on the.
Yeah.
I wonder if we got the wrong place. I wonder if I
Well,
missed
either that or we might just not have had enough. So it could depend. Let me let's zoom way out like this and try that again. Now here's the difference. If I place a Google Earth image, do you know where this is? Like, could you steer your way to this on a map?
No.
Oh, okay. So if we did, that would be where you would choose map instead of screen.
Okay.
And yeah, it probably doesn't have any high. That's fine. Medium, that's good. Imagery. So that way, if you do know where something is on a map now,
Okay, there's the railroad.
this is the railroad here,
Yeah.
and there's the main road. There's our point. So that's basically, now we'll go back to that other map and let's see about how big we've got this to be.
The map I was just looking at for Sager.
The image that he gave you, that one, yeah. So that's going to go up. I've got those 2 little roads coming off of McGuy's Ferry or whatever that's called. And that goes up. So it's about halfway down between the railroad and the little Georgetown or whatever that's called, William Georgetown, something. So back to Carlson, let's see if we can sort of get a sense of, do we have enough coverage or, yeah, so right back there. And I see, yep, there's those 2 roads. So it's going to be about halfway in there. It looks like the back fence line there's trees all on the south side and it's cleared on the north side.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, his property is probably from, say, right up in here, down to here and down to here like that, right?
Okay.
That's
I'm not seeing your cursor, but
oh, I'm sorry. Let's see, right here.
here you go.
So that's probably like from here down to here, down, that's what I'm guessing.
Right.
plus that looks like his thing in there. So now we're not here to give him parcels. He just wants contours, right?
Right.
So at this point, go ahead and leave this. I would draw in a temporary, just quick thing so we don't lose track.
Polyline.
Yeah, so we don't lose track of where we are. We'll just put that on, we'll give it a layer name called boundary dash temp. And we'll make it red. And I'm just going to go from say here to here to here to here and close. All right, so that's basically that. I'm going to change that boundary temp, give it a nice size so I can see it. All right, so there's that one. And we can do the same thing on the other point. So here's how to get to that other point now. If you go to your, I mean, you could zoom out and try to find it, but just go to your inquiry menu and choose find points by number, and you're going to try to find point number 2. Okay. Now that may be exactly where we need to be. I wouldn't zoom any closer. I would go back out, keep it out there tiny like it was there. Now, right in there. Let's go up and bring in that Google image. And it's on the images folder, the Google stuff.
Images.
There you go. Yeah. Place Google Earth image.
Okay. Place.
Nope, up the top. Right there. Okay. Now this one you're going to call Sager 1. And we'll do it from the screen. Now just go way out to the left and down as far as you can go without getting too tiny. Now just click in there and go up to the right. There you go. Good. And keep going a little more. All right. Pull down up there where it says medium. See if you can get high resolution. Probably not. It's unavailable. That's fine. We'll say medium is fine. And that's all well and good. We say okay. All right.
Okay, let me go look at his, I have to look at the other one now.
Mhm.
Okay, I think I saw that, yeah, I see that.
That little
Coming in.
jiggy jag, yeah, that comes in off the side. So sort of just go over there and figure out, or maybe even you see the 2 main roads and you know, the one road that's parallel, like 2 properties over or 3.
Oops.
Yeah, there you go. Now I would just, and again, go to draw your polyline. And right now it's set to be the right code. We go, okay. And now just go in there. And so I see this.
Think about here.
Looks like, no, I think more like in here. See, I think isn't that where that, see, there's
Yeah.
that one road and there's that little zigzag.
Yeah,
road.
you're
Maybe,
right.
I don't know. Zoom in on it and look at it and see, or maybe it's even further to the right, but I think that is
I didn't need to go over that far, did I?
That's all right. You're just doing this so you don't get lost. This is not going to be anything at all. We're going to get rid of it when we're done. Just type Cedar Close. Now go back to your other image that he sent you. Now, you see there's a road that goes southwest to northeast up in the northwest corner of the
This
right
one?
there. Yeah, so there's that road. And then there's a road that's 90 degrees to that down at the foot of our property.
Yeah,
That one. So we've got those two roads are really the only thing that sort of eyeballs us where we're in, and that little driveway road that pulls off to that. So now let's go back to our site and see if we can find that location and zoom in a little tighter.
yep, there we are.
Yeah,
There's
so
that
there's
road.
that. There's that little ziggy-zag road. There's the main road up there, something crossroad, Files Cross or Felix Cross, however you pronounce it.
South Crossroads.
Because yeah, so bring that down in that's going to more represent his property, because it doesn't go all the way out to the road, and that's certainly not out there. So just grab those corners and bring them in. And you know, so he shows us. Yeah, you know, is it, see how the trees form a, you may have to go none. When you drag that up, it's trying to snap. So turn your snap temporarily off.
Think I got it?
Well, I think it's still more like this, Mike. I think if you look at him here, I think it's more down here. But let's go back and look at what, well, let me bring this up a little bit more too here.
You right click to turn snaps off?
I'm shift right click, but you can also, let's say when you go to move it and you want to turn them off just for that command, just come up here,
Yeah, okay.
do that. So now it's off until you do the next click. Now, did I get enough? Go back to his, that what he sent us. And I don't know, because see, he's actually, so you see where the road is? He's not all the way up to the road on the west. He's in a few properties and he doesn't care about that part. So
Yeah, he's
he's
almost at
actually,
this tree line.
yeah, and you see the actual tree line that I was drawing around is, you know, further out. It is, it's say this part out here. Okay.
Right,
And we came down there and up, and I think I came up here and over. So, you know, and he can throw away what he doesn't need. But
right.
if we look at, you know, where that is, we just want to sort of see that we are in the neighborhood. And so there's that other tree line that's up there, and that was pretty well defined. So here's this driveway, here's that. So if we go back to, where's his, right here. So if we go back to, there's that driveway that comes up and over, and that's really the right in here. If I do, let me add a vertex, I'll put one there, and let's see. I add a vertex right there, and then bring this up to here for a minute. Come on. All right, so back to here. I see that's up the driveway, over to the edge, around the back and back down. And I, you know, I don't care about this little inset here, but I'm going to go from the driveway out to the tree line and up.
Okay, I would guess he probably needs this driveway included.
I would think so. And we're gonna do some, we'll do some additional stuff. So if I sort of bring that there, I'll bring this over You know, and I think actually we would, want to probably get to the road. I'm going to say that's probably going to go to there. And I would bring this across. All right, so I would do something like that now. I would then also say, let's go 50 feet outside of that. So I'm going to just do a standard offset, either from your toolbar or from edit. So standard offset, give it a distance of 50 feet. We pick this, click on the outside. So now we're good to go. I'm going to just erase that inside one. So that should give us what we need. Just for yucks, because I can see that tree edge up there. I just want to make sure we've got enough. He can trim those off. So you want to make sure you're across, certain features like there's the roadway. So that way he'll be able to recognize contours that are crossing the road. And if he needed anything else, if he ever found out he needed more there, he can get them. He can always come back to you later and you can come back to him as well. This is probably, really more realistically something like that. I don't know. Let's see what I forgot the shape of it already. No, that went straight right on that edge. So there's the driveway over toward the squiggle house, up and back across. So up the driveway over toward that, and then it went sort of like that. All right. So we'll use that one in that area. We can do the same thing up in our other area. And let's go back and find that other image. All right, so we're up to the railroad and back halfway toward Little Georgetown and down against McGuy's. All right, so I think we're in good shape there. Let's go ahead and offset that one 50 feet as well. Try it again. There you go. There you go. Now erase the inside one after you finish the command. There you go. Now erase that. Okay, perfect. Now we need to get him the contours. So remember how we did the last one? We needed to look at the tiles. Okay. And I showed you how to bring the tiles in individually, but we've already done it. So all we have to do is reference that tile boundary.
XREF.
Yeah, external reference.
New or import.
Over in the right-hand side, just right click and choose attach. Okay. And yep, no, right there, you're looking at it. Jefferson Berkeley tile index. Open it up. And you're gonna have to type 0,0 and then take the defaults until you finish out. One more. And now you can close that. And zoom out. So it looks like that one needs those two files. The other one is going to need the other two files. And you're going to have to do these one at a time because you want to
Oh, that was only, that
Well-
was in one file.
Actually, you don't need to do it one at a time. You can do them together, so. Yeah, so let's go. Let's make a note of the files we need, of the tiles that we need. We need 50, what is that? There's 6086. What's the other one? There's SQD is Berkeley, so that's the Zoom, yeah, right there. So 5986 and 6086 from Berkeley, right?
66. Yeah, well, they're both in Berkeley.
5986 and 6086. Now go down and find out what the other ones are. That's all going to be in one. So that's what?
6872.
6872. Okay, that's all we need to know. Now, sometimes if you scroll up a little bit to where we can see both tile sets.
Wait a minute, what happened here? We deleted that and it's back.
Yeah, I delete the outside one. I think we accidentally took the outside one and took it 50 feet more. So delete that outside one. There you go. All right, now. You see right in here, you see where you see this overlap?
Yeah,
Where the two tile sets overlap. What happens in there is that, I think that's probably down like along the, maybe it's along the Shenandoah or something. There's a,
the Peckin Creek, it's along, it's probably
yeah,
along
the
border between
yeah,
Jefferson
Peckham,
and Berkeley.
that's exactly right. And, so what happens is that the contours from Berkeley County go up to the county boundary and they stop. That might be what's in this tile. So that tile does not contain contours from Jefferson County in it, only the ones from Berkeley County. Whereas the Jefferson County tile, which is this yellow one and this yellow one, they're going to go up and stop at the creek edge too, or at the county boundary.
Okay,
So that's why you'll have that overlap. And sometimes you'll need to do this as a couple of stages. But right now we have 3 Berkeley tiles that we're going to bring in. So we'll do that and then we're going to trim them here in a minute. So let's go to that.
so GIS tools,
Yeah, on GIS data, we're going to import the shape file. Import GIS data. And from that is, there you go, import an Esri shape file. Okay. Now, this time the files we're going to get, go ahead, are not in Jefferson. So we're going to browse and we're going to go to the Berkeley folder this time. Yep, contour shape files. That's the folder they're in inside of that, because there's some other things you might want to put in that parent folder later on. But anyway, find your 3 files. Remember, control click. You know, one more. Okay. Now say open for that. And now when this comes in, we're going to take the geometry with the data like we have been doing. We will use an attribute for the layer, but we're not going to use the inclusion crossing. quite yet. Well, no, let's go ahead and do it. Go ahead and choose that. I was gonna say you could do it and just bring in everything up to the boundary edges, but this is fine. We'll use, but that's fine. And we'll say, okay. And now it's going to ask you to select the inclusion boundaries. So click this one and then zoom out and then zoom up to the other site and click that one as well. There you go. And zoom in and grab that boundary. Now you're finished selecting, so hit enter. Now we're going to assign the elevation. So we have to check that box on. Which field do we use or which attribute, which is elevation? That's fine. And for layer, we want to change that to layer. Now, pay attention to those. So if you don't change those, it's going to read the elevation and it's going to make a separate layer for each one of those contours at each one of those elevation values. So, you know, just be aware of what you're looking at when and find it and realize what it is it's asking you for. Okay. Go ahead and import the polylines. All right, so there's the one in that area. We go down and find the one in the other area. We see that everything's looking pretty good there. Everything looks pretty good there. So I think we're in good shape. We got the data we need, but let's now get some symbology going here. If you, let's go to, well, first of all, save this drawing. Okay, now, let's go to, let's open a new, or let's open an existing file. So if you go back to the start page tab, or just choose file open, either way. So we're going to open a file. Now let's scroll to your GIS data or navigate to your GIS data. And the Jefferson Berkeley. And choose the tile index, the one that we XREP'd. I want you to go ahead and open this and I'll show you why in just a second. All right, so there's that one. And once it settles down and finishes loading, I'm going to look at something here in a second. Now go to your layers. I think this is why I'm having you do this. I think I have kept in, I did. All right. All right, so we've already assigned the contour layers here, even though there's no data on them. So you can close this off for a minute. And now with this drawing open, go back to your Sager drawing. And by the way, you can go to Herbst and save that and close it if you want to. I see it's not saved. And remember, you've got some images and such on, and contours are on there. They're on frozen layers. So just remember they're there. Now, all right, so go back to the Sager drawing. And let's go to the layer where you set your layers and such. And now, because we opened up Jefferson Berkeley tile index, you see in the leftmost column down below the list of items is that other one. So open that up. Now click on layers in that file and go over now and select with the mouse, just left click on the down that one and left and hold the shift key and left click on the other one or control either one. Now you can let the keyboard thing up, and now with the mouse, so you want to drag and drop it on the category called layers in the Sager drawing. There you go, just like that. Okay, now close this off. So that was what we did, was to borrow the layer definition. So if you go to layers now into this file, just go to like you're assigning your layers, and you'll scroll down and you'll see that WV Cont USA, although I see it didn't bring the colors and such. Well, let's find out why. Apparently all it did was just bring the definition. So 253 and 252 with these two contour line types. So if I go to my line types, I see those are the contour line types. So I'm going to put them in the line types of Sager as well. And now back onto layers, I'm going to say 253 and 252. And for the index, it's going to be contour. And for the index intermediate, contour 2. And let me see what else. I think I had some line weights. I had 0.15 and 0.05. So I thought all of that came across. Apparently it doesn't. So I'm going to set this to be 0.15 for the index and 0.05 for the intermediate. Let me make sure that's correct. 253, 52, contour 2, 1505. Yes, we're in good shape. Now, we're going to come down here and find things reassigned to the different layers. Now, they look really out of whack because of some scaling issues that's going on. And here's how we're going to fix that. Let's go back to the settings, drawing setup, and I'm going to change that to be, let's just make it 100 scale for now. And let's change this LT scale value here from what it sets. I'm going to override that decision and put it on 1. And I'm going to look at a variable called MSLT scale, and I'm going to turn it on or make sure that it is on. It is on. So that's fine. I'll do the same thing with PSLT scale. Make sure it is on. It is not. So now everything's going to gear to the line type scale in model space and in paper space, and it will be annotation scale sensitive. All right, so far so good. Now, I'm going to select, I can start to see now some differentiation. I'm still not happy with how it looks, but I'm going to select one of these and one of the intermediates. So I saw they're on 2 different layers, and I'm going to right click and choose select similar. And there's a couple things I need to change about those. I need to make sure, and I see that they were, line type generation set to yes. Otherwise, when you get the vertices too close together, you'll get just a solid line. I want to make sure the dash pattern just flows through all of those vertices. So I see it does. That's great. And I want to come up here to my line type scale where it says 1, and I'm going to put that in at 0.2. And then I'm just going to do EA to regen all. And now things should be looking a little bit better in terms of some symbology that we'll get to him here in a minute. Or that we'll get to him as part of our process. So now that we have this done, it's time to trim off those to the red boundaries. Okay. So let's go, and I'm gonna let you drive at this point. So let's go to that, through that process. So we are going to isolate layers. And you want one of those and one of those and the red boundary as well. I think you missed one. Get the index one also. There you go. Now get the red boundary. Now hit enter to finish. Now So we have everything there, but here's something to be very careful of and why I wanted to point this out to you in this process. If you were to go through that command, erase by closed polyline, and you said, outside, well, go ahead and zoom way up in the air and you'll see what else would get erased. Would be all of this other stuff you did down on the other site.
Oh,
So what I want you to do right now is let's draw another polyline, or just choose, yeah, that's fine. Just choose that and just draw a big box around everything on this site. And it doesn't have to be very tight. Just draw a square box around it. It's fine. Just there and close. Okay. Now go up to the other site and do the same thing. This will obviously only be a problem for when you're bringing in little islands of stuff. If you made these into two separate files, you wouldn't have to go through this. Okay. All right. Now let's go to that erase by closed polyline command.
where was that? Under edit?
Up under edit, erase by closed polyline. Okay. Now select the little boundary we drew around the property. It's the red one. Okay. Now, before you do this, we're going to get rid of all this other stuff, but you see where it says prompt for exclusion?
Yeah.
Check that. Yeah. Okay. And now say okay. And now it's going to ask you for the exclusion. So go way up to the, no, not that one. Go up to the other one and get its, so what you're saying is, okay, everything inside of this you can't touch. So click that. And now you see what it did down below?
Yeah.
All right. Now you're going to need to draw another box around there. So just draw a rectangle or yeah, do that thing. Because it got rid of itself when we did the other one. So that's fine. Now come down and close it. All right. So now go back up and do the same thing that you did down below. You're going to erase outside, and then you're going to leave that exclusion on. You're going to go down and grab that other exclusion. Back up. No, right there. Okay. So pick the polyline that's our boundary. And now make sure it says prompt for exclusion. We'll say okay and go down and grab that exclusion. Right there and be done. And now you can grab that overall outside boundary right there and just get rid of it. Okay. Now let's go up and look at what we got. Looks pretty darn good to me. Look at that railroad cut.
Yeah.
And so that's there. We can either select and delete the red outlines, or we can just freeze that layer. I would say let's restore the layers and then freeze that red outline layer. And the only layers we have are the images and the tiles showing. So let's freeze by pick that layer. One more.
Nelson's stuck.
Oh, sorry. There you go. Yeah, the red one. Okay, now, so you can also go to the XREF stuff and unload
Tile.
the tile index or even detach it. I mean, you might as well leave it there in case you ever have to come back to it. Now make sure you're in your file. There you go. And I would choose that very top one where it says Jefferson. Well, that's the category name, yeah, but it's right there, and I just right click and choose unload. It's down toward the bottom, right there. Okay, now close that off. And you can even at this point close that Jefferson Berkeley tile index drawing, that second tab, because you we got over what we needed from that. Okay, there you go. All right, so now you've got some images. You can change, you know, how, but those are the Google images. All
Yeah,
right.
I'll let him deal with that. I mean, he can go on his layers and turn that on and off, right?
Yeah, but here's the problem, because it's Google, it's not terribly accurate. So what I would do is I would just select those two. We used them to see where we were. So
Yeah,
let's
okay.
select them and just grab the edge and delete it. And we're going to use that other one that's real good imagery.
Okay.
And now you got the other one down below, but you can wait and finish this one here first. So that's there. Yep. And it was the Esri ArcGIS services. Right there. And it's going to be world imagery.
Oh, where are you? World imagery.
Right there. Look, back up right there. Okay. High resolution. Now change the layer where it says soils. I would just call it, you know, image dash aerial or something like that. I would not use the Google one. I would indicate, you know, a different layer. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Okay. And now I'll give him a bounding box that covers our area. I would go, not, yeah, because it's got to be rectangular. Yeah, you need to make sure, yeah, perfect. There, and go over to the right and up, and perfect. Now it needs a file name. So this is, what is his second site? This is not this one, but the other one. I think. Which one are we at?
Well, let me look here. Oh, shoot. No, I can't. I'll have to cancel out of this and then come back.
Right. Wait a minute. That's the railroad, so I can tell by the contours. That's what I was looking for. Okay.
Right.
So maybe give that
This is called what?
does he have parcel? Yeah, does he have parcel numbers or things like that? Something that would, you know, give it a name.
Well, let me look at his email here. He did name them on his email. Okay, the railroad is McCormick and the other one is Green.
All right. So decide whichever one this one is, and that'll be what we'll name it.
This is McCormick.
All right.
So go back to GIS data. Go back to.
There you go. That's it.
Services.
World imagery. So everything's good to go there. Give it the bounding box. Okay. Give it the name that you just called it.
I'm not sure that's how you spell McCormick, but that's good enough.
All right. Ah, image size too large. Okay, let's see. Promise to fine. Say okay. All right, let's try it again and just, well, it's still looking for it. So let's click a little bit closer in. come back down, yeah, like right in there, maybe, go, yeah, like in there, and then go up and over to the right. And go, and I would come back, like, yeah, let's try like right in there. And see what that does. And call that McCormick. And if this still doesn't work, I'll show you a little trick. That's the first time I've experienced that. But if this comes back to the same problem, I'll show you what the way I would handle this. I sort of almost wish it would, so we can go through the exercise, but.
It's taking a good while.
Yeah. All right, so that looks good. Probably enough. And so now it wants to know another bounding box. And while you're still doing this, well, this is all that, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. So zoom out while you're still in this command. So zoom out and go down to the other site. And for now, don't worry about the Google image. We're just going to zoom in tight and go around our particular stuff. And I would make sure you include the street intersections. Yeah, like, so I would be to the left and below those 3 barn buildings. Yeah, and then go up and to the right. So I'm going to click once there. And then go up and to the right to where I wouldn't go quite so far to the right and up, just, yeah, a little bit further. Yeah, like right in there. That looks good. Right there, because you've got that little squiggle. Now give that the other name. Let's see, did it come in already? I didn't see.
I think it did, but it's on top of Google
Oh,
Earth.
that's all right. So now let's just hit enter to finish our bounding box selections. There you go. Now select the Google map and get rid of it. Just delete it. There we go. Now you can look at that and decide whether or not that was a better image. It may or may not have been, but I think it's in better location is the good thing about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so now all we have to do is label the contours.
Yep. And but also let's clean up those other maps. Let's go to the layers again, where you do your XREFs. Go to the external reference and let's get rid of the ones that we just deleted, which were called Sager, Sager-2 and Sager-1. Those, select those 3 and just detach them. Up, right there. Okay, now save that. Now, here was, now let me show you what what I would have done here, if, remember we had that image was too big.
Yeah,
If I ever got a situation like that, I would do something along these lines. I would draw a rectangle. I say, okay, well, that's too big an image, but I think, that might be okay. And then I would copy that. From here up to here. And then one more here, and then maybe I would take this and move it. So you would basically draw a bunch of overlapping boundaries that would cover what you need, okay? And remember when we ran this and it asked us to pick a bounding box, we did this one and then we went down and got the other one?
yes.
But instead, this time you would do this, and in fact, I want to see how this works for us. I'm going to pull this a little bit bigger. All right, so if we had something like that, and then we did that same service with the world imagery, that's good to go there. We'll say, okay. I would start here, pick here, go to, oops, crap. Go from here, go up to there. And now I'm going to call that McCormick 1. I want to see how the seams look on this when we do this join. It'll be interesting if we can tell it. Now, another bounding box I'm going to now, because when I copied those, come on. When I copied those frames up, I made sure I had the same coverage. And I went corner to corner, basically slid it over. Now, you may notice that there's going to be there's a slight rotation on those image files, even though I'm giving it a bounding box. There's a little bit of rotation in there, and you may see that along these edges, in which case the proper technique then would be to overlap them a little bit enough to cover that gap. So we'll see. And if this is the case, we'll just go back to the overall. So now let's see what that looks like. So now I've got those two and they fit nicely. So I'll now conclude this one. Go all the way up to there with McCormick 3. And so you can see this is doing the very same thing that we did with the big one. And it's just doing it 3 different times. So we got 3 smaller images that we can turn on and off individually if we wish, by going to the XREF and load and unload. Okay, so I'm going to select those little frames that I used. Choosing polyline each time and delete. So I now have those, and you see the image frame is on, But if I turn image frames off, there they go away. I now have a contour map sitting over top of some nice aerial that we can give him. We didn't separate it down below. So, you know, this is in good shape. I'm going to go next to, where's my, there it is. Back to this and get rid of that one that I no longer need. So I've got the 3 McCormick's, I've got the green, and I've got the Jefferson Berkeley tile, which is unloaded at the moment. That's all well and good. I'm actually going to, whoops, I gotta get the right key. I'll go ahead and unload the images for now, just so we can work without a whole lot of distraction. Do we have everything thawed? Yep, and the tile, and I'm going to now go back to freeze that. Okay, now it's a matter of labeling the contours, and so you know how to do that. And talk you through that, let you drive. You need to get off of GIS and back to survey.
Back to surface.
Yes. And
Contour utilities.
correct.
Contour elevation label.
Yes, sir. And now the label layer is set to go on the index layer. Now, again, that layer could be anything you want. But it's there because that's, you know, when you brought those layers across and all of that, they're there. Standard text style, height of 0.08. Let's make that 0.06. Just so they're not quite so big. And let's change the style. Go up there and choose set. Let's, instead of using what's probably, let's say if you type CTR-LBL, I wonder if it will make its own. There you go. So, okay. Because what I want to do is I don't want those to be aerial and be quite so heavy. And we'll go and redefine it later. So we are going to ignore zeros. We'll draw on the real Z. We're at a 10-foot interval. We're labeling the index only. That's up at the top there. I'm going to hide under the labels, not break. And I'll say, okay. And it's going to start asking me to pick points. Now at this point, and notice it, I don't know if you saw it, but it over on the bottom on the status line where your object snaps are normally set, this command turned that off for you. So you're not going to actually have to worry about snapping to something. You're just going to draw lines, just crossing lines, you know. So there's there, and then, you know, anything. Yeah, but no, but now pay attention though, Mike, when you did right here, right in here, when you did it the first time down, you had a label here, you did it up here. And so now you got 2 labels fairly close together. Now that's okay. Nothing hurts that. You can always delete it, but you know, you want to make sure that like when you came down this way, you missed this one here entirely. So I'm just going to put one right there. And then you want to jump over and, you know, find some things. And so every time you do that, like maybe come across the railroad. Now, what you may find there is that, you know, they might be too tight and you have to move them out of line, you know. So anyway, I'm going to let you finish that process. And once you've done all of those, remember that other command to move the contour along or move the label along the contour.
Yeah.
That's available for you there as well. Okay. Now I would make sure you've got some across the railroads. And you see you've got 3, maybe 4. And you
He's
don't,
only got to put them on his site. He doesn't actually have to go across the railroad.
oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, but see, if you did it, you know, say like to this, see, there's no need to necessarily go all the way out here and across the whole thing. You can just do it in places.
Okay.
know? So like, now I wouldn't do it in there. That's just going to be ridiculously tight, but I would maybe consider that, you know, and you can see, and whether you need to flip and all of those. So just, you know, get a sense, and he can label the things that are missing also, because those are drawn at elevation.
Right.
Okay.
So I think we've got all those on that one. Now I need to go down to the next one. Can I just start drawing on the next one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And again, you're going to be picking start and stop points for the little lines that cut. So there you go. Go across there now, instead of, and I would come say maybe all the way across. So you see that little ring right in there, but zoom in there, just roll into it. Now you see everywhere you cross that is where it's going to put a label. So don't go out the other side, just go into the middle and come down like toward a little further, like there. Yeah, just click there. Now you can go back and grab another bite. So if you were to have crossed that, everywhere you cross it is where a label gets dropped.
Okay.
All right. So do those, you know, any of those rings. Now see, you're crossing that ring one twice. And again, it's okay. It doesn't hurt it, but we don't generally label that more than once. Yeah, that's what I would do, is just get in the habit of, like, sometimes you're just going to cross one line. You know, so find out what makes the most sense for you. And then reposition, flip if you need to. You know, get as many as you can. You know, so now it's asking for you to pick a first point. It hadn't got the first point yet. I don't know if you picked the first point, thought you did, but it missed it. Okay, so now you're back. Okay. Yep. So there you go. And again, you don't have to do them one at a time, but you can do them one at a time. And it's all just a matter of what you want to do and whether you want to go back and erase or move, or, you know, what you do. So what you're showing it is a series of crossing lines where you wanted to place the label, where that line intersects. Okay. And you see that 490 label? Like, I would go back after you're done with this and I would run that move label along contour, and I would clean those out of those tight corners so that it's in more of a straight stretch on the contour lines.
Okay.
So that, you know, just to make them line up. And again, it doesn't matter. And when you're done, you hit enter. And one last thing, go ahead and hit enter, and then go back to your XREFs and reload those images. And it's green as well as those 3. So control click them. Now just right click and choose reload down at the bottom. I think it unselected. Select them again. And select. There you go. But you got to point to them.
Again.
You got to point to them. Click and then click the others. Well, now click those 3. And now instead of point, yeah, you have to be on the selected. There you go. That's it. All right. So now they're loaded. We got it back. We got that. We've also got those 2 points are drawn, which are probably not going to be anything for him. Or you can tell him that those were the lat longs from his images. If he wants to deal with them later, it's you know, however he wants to deal with it. And So you've got a bunch of things that you can deliver now. Okay, you got contours, you've got them labeled, you've got images to go under them. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can just take the DWG, take the PNG files, those ones called green and then the McCormick -1, 2, and 3. And you've, I guess that's really all you would need. You could send him a CRD file if he were using Carlson coordinate files, Carlson software. You say he's not, so there's no need for that. So that's everything that he needs. But if you don't send him those image files along with the drawing file, he won't get them, even though you.
Okay, let me go ahead and do that while we're talking here.
Yeah, but there's
So,
also there's a command that's going to help you do that as well, because you sometimes have all kinds of stuff, fonts and different things.
where's my attach?
Have you replied yet? I don't think you're in the reply, are you?
Oh, no, okay.
Now you can do. Now go back and save your DWG first of all, before you attach it. Okay, and now you can attach that and the images.
What did I do with that email?
It's go down to the bottom of the screen where it has the envelope. If you hover over that envelope, you should be able to see it pop up.
No, I think I closed it.
Oh. All right, reply. There you go. Are you sure we got the right DWG?
I think.
Because you shouldn't have to go to a new folder now. You should, let's cancel that. Cancel this and go back to that. Take the Sager file out. Just remove attachment. Now go back to your attachment.
Well, see,
And
I attached it from, I didn't attach it from the computer, so let me attach it.
yeah, because see, you got it from that list up there and it just pulled Sager DWG from the Carlson projects folder. So
Okay.
now go back and grab, that's what I wanted to make sure. So go to your desktop, SHEPP survey stuff, yeah, there you go. Wherever your thingy bop is.
I can't remember where I put the Sager folder. Not in 2003 jobs. There.
There it is. Okay, so now find your Sager. Well, first of all, find your Sager DWG. Click that one once.
Oh, I'm not seeing it.
Well, maybe our drawing file is living somewhere else. I'm not sure. All right, so while we're here, you see those PNG and then it's got PGW. Those are world files. They're useful for somebody else. They're not necessarily going to be useful for him. So we don't need those, but we do need, so let's get the McCormick 1 PNG, McCormick 2 PNG, McCormick 3 PNG.
McCormick PNG.
No, that was the overall big one. We don't necessarily need that. Just no. Get the one, the -1, right? That down, one, right there. Click once, hold the control key and click the -2 PNG, correct. And the -3, correct. And go up and get green.png and say insert. Now let's, aha. All right, say, okay, well, let's come back to this. Say okay to that, and but I'll make sure we're doing. So cancel this reply. That's gonna be too big, too much data for this to work with. Okay. So let's go to
Put it on my Dropbox and send him a link.
yes, that's what we'll do. But let's go back to Carlson and let's see. I think maybe our drawing file, go to the file menu and choose save as. I think maybe we're putting the drawing over in the other folder. So let's do a save as. Yeah, see, it's pointed to Carlson projects. So we want to go to desktop. So as it turned out, that file would have been the correct one. So now there's your Sager. Are we in Sager? There we go. And now that's where you want to call it. Perfect. Now just remember, now you've got two on the computer, so go back and erase that other one.
Right.
All right, so now here's the other thing that you can do is you can do all that stuff, gather that stuff up and place it into your Dropbox. But you can go to the file menu and choose e-transmit, and that's on the drawing utilities, I think. Yes, e-transmit right there. Go ahead and choose that. And you're going to, so what you're getting is the current drawing and the images that go with it. And you could do all kinds of other things. If you open up that images folder, you see it should list those. So those are those are the ones that are attached. You got this current drawing. You should also see why is it not getting the grid? We may not have. Let me see if we did it or not. Let's see if I look at my standard. See what it is set to do. So it's going to make a zip file. It's going to keep the existing formats. It's going to put it in this folder. So I'm going to switch that to, for right now. Now you've got several Sager folders. I saw one in the level above. So just make sure, when you're working on this stuff that you keep track of where things go.
Right.
Find the external references. No, but oh, there it is. Include unloaded file references. And that'll be okay. I'll close that. And so now it's picked up that tile index, even though it's unloaded, we said, go ahead and send it. So he's going to get the tile index, he's going to get Sager.drawing, he's going to get the images, and it's going to go into that location as a zip file. So we'll say, okay, Sager standard, and you might call this one Sager 2-foot contours from WVGIS. And see, it's pointing to the right location. It's going to be a zip file. We'll say save. And when it's done, okay, now let's see about how big that file goes, because when we zipped it, it might have made it small enough, but I doubt it. So there's that zip file. Yes, well, it's only 12 megs. May or may not be. I would still put that on a Dropbox instead of trying to attach that.
Okay, good. You can show me how to do that.
Okay, good. All right. So,
Dropbox.
yeah, so now we've got all that stuff. We've got things pulled together. So let's go to Dropbox. And we want to either make a folder, or if we got a folder that we're working in, like I have a folder on mine. I have one called consulting, and I've got some called training materials. I've got some called data transfer. So make a good parent folder. Right now we're just on there. So we're going to make a new folder and we're going to call it, maybe data transfer or something that could be a good parent name for other projects as well. So data transfer is fine. Then click off of that and then double click into data transfer. Keep going up right there. Double click. Now let's make another folder. This time call this one Sager. Okay, and click off. So now you've got that folder. And I would double click in it and see that it's empty. But you're going to go next and you want to go to your Sager folder and find that zip file. Right there, right click copy. Go back to your Dropbox location. And I see that's over on the left-hand side. You see the left-hand column right there. So go to that Sager or data transfer. One more down. There you go. Nope, one down right there. And go into Sager. Now right click paste. Okay, so there's there. Now, what you want to do in your reply is point him to where this file lives. So go over there either on the left-hand side and open up that little arrow next to data transfer. Or you could on the right-hand side, just go up to data transfer either way. But now you're going to point to Sager, the folder, not the zip file. The zip file would work, but you want to just point to that folder. You can have it open, it doesn't matter. But right click and choose copy Dropbox link. There you go. Okay. Now go to reply to your email and say, hey, Billy Joe Ray Bob Jr., here's your stuff. It's all in one file for both sites with some bonus images or whatever you want to do. So.
And right click and paste.
Yeah, I would just type the word, link and a colon and a space and then paste. Either right click paste or control V or however you do it. There it is. Now say, call Ken with any issues. I'm out of here. Sincerely, Mike.
Let me know if you have any trouble and Ken will get back to you.
Yeah, and I'd be glad to if you'd like. So now, yeah, so that should take care of that effort. And like I said, there's some other things we can do, like when we go to make our inset maps for new platting, but we can save and do that another day.
I think we have to. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I'm getting there myself. I've got to go to the bathroom here and get some water.
I
So
need to eat. I haven't had breakfast yet.
oh man, and here I was eating potato chips in front of you. I'm so sorry. All right, so that's good. That's for him. It's good to go. You can also obviously make those into two separate files. You know the technique now. So anything you want to do, but just everybody, please keep in mind, put your disclaimers in your notes as to where the source of those contours are from, so people don't think you've gone out and surveyed it.
I've checked. I've field tested some of those some of that work in the past, and it's remarkably good.
They are pretty good. I will give them that because it's coming from LiDAR in this case, and sometimes they come from photogrammetric work, and they can be really good. And they might even meet national map accuracy standards. It just depends. But it's also, it's a timing issue. You're taking these from at the time that that the observations were made and the work performed.
Which was a long time ago.
Yeah, so this was, back then. So I would cite those sources in your general disclaimer notes, just the same way you would do as if you drew the parcel boundaries from the county tax assessor's map. You know how
Right.
all
Yep.
that goes. That's just that. So there you go. That's the process. We will at some other point, when you get to the point of making a new plat on a new project that you haven't done one before, and it's time to do the location map, let's set up another quick session and I'll show you, and we'll do this from the same thing that we just did here with these images. And, we'll be able to set it to a very specific scale and bring them in, and, it should be something fairly easy to go. In the meantime, I'm going to sort of dig around deeper into the West Virginia data and see if I can get some of those server addresses set up and let you know where you can start to pull in other things, street networks, sewer line networks, water system, whatever they've got available that could be useful for you. Okay.
Right. Sounds good.
That offline, and I'll send you a link for the video as always.
Thank you, sir.
All right. You take care. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.